Well, hello and good evening, everybody. Welcome back here to Maconi Entertainment, and for one final time in 2025, welcome back to the Friday Night Lights Xfinity Series. This is race number 33, the season finale of this season, coming to you tonight from Phoenix. My name is Ron Mullins. Alongside me in the commentary booth is Ewan O'Leary. Howie Burrows is our producer for tonight's broadcast. After 32 races, in fact, it all comes down to this. Four drivers looking to contend for the season crown and some pretty nice prizes to boot. And here are those championship four drivers as we head off into this race. Bryson Nixonball and Adam Benefield, the two dominant runners up to this point in this season, combining for more than 10 wins. They're in. Joseph McWhorter won at Pocono a little bit earlier on this season and has a lot to battle for here tonight. He's going to be one of those championship four racers. And then finally in fourth, we have Eric Wineland. Now, if you tuned into last week's broadcast at Martinsville, you may have remembered that we said that Lucas Hoytema even confirmed the fact that Lucas Hoytema was going to be in the championship four. However, after the broadcast was wrapped in the wee hours of the following morning, some penalties from previous rounds of the championship were factored into the equation that hadn't been previously added, and it promoted Eric Wineland into the championship four. Very touch and go situation, but don't worry, you Lucas Hoytema fans, he will be contending for a championship in the full-length Cup Challenge tomorrow night here on Maconi Entertainment. For now, though, we've got this Xfinity Series race to look forward to at Phoenix. This is a rather peculiar racetrack, and had a big reconfiguration a matter of a couple of years ago, but this track and its odd layout always produces a rather unique style of racing.
Yeah, it certainly does, and it's been brought into sharper focus as well since having the championship race in the last 5 years. That's going to go away for next year, so if one of these four fancies themselves most at Phoenix, then they've got to take this year as their opportunity. I think we're going to return to Homestead in 2026, so it's a big chance here tonight, and as you say, a unique racetrack to end the season. Looking forward to seeing who comes out on top of that in our championship race.
Yeah, it's going to be that classic NASCAR winner. It's going to be that classic NASCAR winner-take-all situation heading into this season finale. Going to be a very tense evening for drivers up and down the field. Some looking to end off the season with the championship. Others looking to just end off the season on a good note. Got to worry about a lot of things throughout tonight. Keep an eye on the pit entry. Drivers already practicing. That comes out of nowhere as you head your way off through 1 and 2. A very long pit lane as well. So if you pick up any sort of penalty, be wary, because that will change your race and just about ruin it in the blink of an eye. I want to quickly go through the race information as we head off into the final round of the championship, because there are, of course, the usual notes to worry about. 200 laps of racing action here this evening. Stage is going to come at the end of lap number 45 and 90. 5 tire sets allotted to these competitors, the ones they start off on, and 4 tire changes during the race. 17x as the usual FLCC incident point limit. Open setups as per usual, and winner takes all here in this season finale. Here at Phoenix, it can be a race of attrition at certain points in time, but it feels like a marathon more often than not.
Yeah, it certainly does, and that's what we're going to be experiencing tonight. I mean, those stages at lap 45 and 90 are only going to serve as a bit of a break, really, for those championship drivers. Of course, the stage points don't actually count for those guys. It is all about that bottom line there. Winner takes all. And to be fair, if none of them win, then, which I'm going to predict right now, I don't know if it's a bold prediction or not, I'm going to predict that one of the championship four will not win here tonight, based on what we saw in the round of 8, where I think all 3 races, if I remember correctly, were won by non-championship drivers. We've got half of those amount of drivers here in this round of the playoffs, and just one race. So I'm going to predict it will be a non-championship winner, but of course the one who finishes ahead of the other 3 will be crowned.
And whoever is going to back their car into victory lane at the end of this may not be your champion, but certainly the champion will be crowned by the end of tonight. Let's take a look at the final starting grid from the season. Bryson Nixonball going to grab the pole position after being rather lackadaisical during these playoffs. He wants to end it on a high note and secure that crown. Charles Velasquez Jr., who just barely missed out on the championship 4, will join him on the front row. Eddie Rose will start this race in third alongside Adam Benefield, another championship 4 contender. Bryce Ryan your winner last time at Martinsville, will start in 5th alongside Raymond Root in 6th. Looking right behind on road number 4, it's going to be Connery Cunningham alongside Blake Kluot. Then rounding at your top 10 right behind these competitors, we have got ourselves Kyle Amon in the 17 and Trace McDowell in the 20.
Lucas Hoitzma will start from 11th, controversially out of the playoffs, of course, alongside Kirk Mills, who was also eliminated in the previous round. Has the chance to move up to 6th place in the point standings tonight, by the way, does Mills. Edward Scherer Jr. and Joseph McWhorter will be then on row 7. McWhorter a long way back for one of our Championship 4. Noah Woods alongside here, or behind I should say, had a pretty miserable Martinsville. He's just alongside Matthew Boston Wheeler, who's in 16th place, 17th to Cliff Mullins, and Tanner Marty is alongside with the rest of the top 20 completed by Dave Hoitzma and Eric Wineland.
Then looking through the rest of the field, we got Michael Deach in 21st, Mason Lowry in 22nd. Looking right beyond row number 12, it's Daniel Llewellyn alongside Tim Phillips. And that will complete your field. We will have an extra pace lap here, and there is a very good reason for that. Heard some rather unfortunate news surrounding one of our Championship 4 drivers. The number 73 of Joseph McWhorter had a personal family matter to deal with. Unfortunately ended with a family member passing away, so we will do an extra pace lap to mark some respect for him. We'll have to keep an eye on him all throughout this race. Of course, racing with some heavy hearts, but he will be contending for a championship here. You know, champagne is probably not the best thing to get in wounds, but at the end of the day, a championship crown would be it would be a nice time for Joseph McWhorter to win the championship. So let's see if he will be able to do that tonight. 4 drivers with destiny in front of them and 200 laps between now and the checkered flag. It has been a fantastic season here for the 2025 Friday Night Lights Xfinity Series season, and we have been delighted to bring you all of the action ever since one of the earlier rounds at Bristol all the way back in April through to the season finale tonight here on Halloween on October 31st of 2025. It's been our honor to be on these broadcasts. It's been my honor to be on just about all of them, but we have got some business at hand. Drivers looking to end this season on a high note. Championship contenders looking to slap a championship crown on an already fantastic season for all 4 of them, and there's a whole lot of racing between now and the checkered flag and a lot of different hurdles that these drivers will have to climb up. Now, heading off into that start zone, it's Bryson Ixenball and Charles Velasquez Jr. leading us to green as the green flag is out at Phoenix and the drivers are on their way. Heading down through the dog leg, the runoff down into turn number 1 and 2. Always a good spot to get a move done. Who's going to try and stay claim on this race lead early? Keep an eye on that 63 of Bryson Ixenball. Going to try and jump into the race lead early. 7 wins for the driver of the number 63 car through to this point in the season. He hasn't won that 7th win since Indianapolis all the way back in the summer, but what a way it would be to get his 8th here tonight.
Absolutely, he's probably the favourite coming into tonight, but all bets are off in the championship race, and Ixenball immediately under pressure from Charles Velasquez Jr., who at a couple of occasions was really close to sealing a championship 4 position. He ran really well at Talladega a couple of weeks ago, and it was not bad at Martinsville either, but is not in the championship 4. He's going to look to make amends by winning tonight.
Yeah, so you got many different racers with many different agendas competing in this race, some with championship aspirations, others maybe gonna play spoiler to that. I think Charles Velasquez Jr. will certainly be one of them. We talked about him all throughout the playoffs as being a driver to keep our eyes on, as Bryce Reiner dropping down with a connection issue. He's out there on the racetrack once again. Thought that may have been a spin, but nope. Brief little blink out there on screen. It's the number 5 car back out there on the road running in P7. But Charles Velasquez Jr. was a driver that we kept tabs on all throughout the playoffs after hitting the ground running at the start of it, winning the regular season finale, which was his first win since the spring Phoenix race all the way back in March. We thought that if he made it into the championship 4, he would have been unstoppable. He didn't, so it makes it a little bit more on the open end as we try and crown a champion here tonight.
Yeah, absolutely. Very open race as it will be, but it's, as you said earlier, it's going to be a long race. 200 laps around here. Phoenix, Arizona is a long way round. It's just about just over 300 kilometers in length, not too much over 200 miles actually. And at the moment, Bryson Ixenball leading the opening laps, although under pretty severe pressure from Charles Velasquez Jr. in second.
Yeah, so still keep an eye on these two up in the front. Hicks and Ball and Charles Velasquez Jr. maybe going to battle sooner rather than later as Adam Benefiel feeling some pressure from Raymond Root. He's going to try and get a move done to jump his way up into the podium spot, but Benefiel, he has been he's had the tenacity that very few can rival throughout this season. He has been up in the front for a decent chunk of this season. Even in the races that he hasn't won, he has been darn fast in that number 83 machine, so keep an eye on him to peak at the right time and get that victory and bring that number 83 Team Conti car into victory lane. Still negotiating the early laps of this race here at Phoenix. Bryson Hixenball, your main rival in this race, your current leader, top of those Championship 4 racers, obviously. Adam Benefiel slotted P2 of those Championship 4 competitors, slotted in 3rd overall right now. Joseph McWhorter finds himself in 8th with Eric Wineland down in P18. The road ahead for Wineland may be a little bit tough. Had one win right at the start of the playoffs at Bristol all the way back in early September, but outside that, he didn't really have too much of a regular season. It didn't have too much of a standout regular season, but Wineland's still contending for a championship. We'll see if he can pull a proverbial rabbit out of his hat.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what it might well take. As in towards 3 and 4 again at the end of another lap through 8 laps here of this race. Already, by the way, in terms of tyre drop-off, we're approaching half a second after just 10 laps here, which just gives you an idea of how quickly these tyres can be shredded. We're in the mid-80s at the moment as far as temperature is concerned. That is not too much on the warm side, and it's only going to get cooler from here, but nevertheless, the tyres are gone through pretty quickly around this circuit. So you've got to be very, very wary of that and mindful of when you're taking those 4 tyre changes. If it was me, I think I wouldn't be changing tyres before either of the stage breaks. So change one set of tyres on 45 and 70 at the end of the 2 stages, and then take those final couple of tyre sets in the pit lane to the last 110 laps and that final stage to the end.
And the thing about Phoenix that has kind of put it off into urban legend, so to speak, in racing circles, this is a flat track. Look at the banking as they head their way off through turns 3 and 4. Not a lot to help you out through there, but it's somehow a heck of a lot more than you have off into turn number 1 and 2. So this is the sort of racetrack where you got to rely on that mechanical grip. You can't just rely on the banking to help you out negotiate these turns. We'll have to keep an eye on what sort of tire strategies these racers trying to run all throughout tonight. Seeing some lap traffic already a little bit farther up the road from the race leader. I believe that's Tim Phillips in the number 27 car that we're seeing him catch up to already.
Yeah, it is. He's clearly had trouble on this opening lap of the race, unfortunately, or these opening laps. Tim Phillips, unfortunately, so may well be going a lap down pretty shortly. Currently running all the way down in 25th, as you see those conditions, by the way. Start time just about 20 to 5 in the evening, so by the time this race is over at 6:30 in the evening, the sun should have dipped below the horizon, and it may well just be, it may well be properly dark, may well actually be just about still light, but it's going to be a dip in track temperatures. That's the important thing. Maybe a slight reprieve for these tyres that are going to be put through a lot here over the 200 laps.
Yeah, a lot of tests are going to be thrown these racers' way all throughout tonight, and it's a matter of who's going to be able to deal with them the best, both out there on the circuit and in their own heads. We always talk about the mental side of things in these full-length races, whether it be here in the Xfinity Series or over on the Cup side. These competitors have to have that mental fortitude from the drop of the green through to the fall of the checkered to realize that, hey, it's a marathon, it's not a sprint. I can't treat it as such, otherwise I'm going to fall to the wayside. Many of these competitors do benefit from the fact that they run in both the Friday Night Lights Xfinity Series and the full-length Cup Challenge, so they have a pretty good grasp on what it's like to run in these full-length races and know what it takes just to stay in the groove.
And that's what it's going to be so much about here tonight as we approach just 1/3 distance of our first stage, which comes on lap 45 here tonight. So it's been a very, very close race to begin with, but you do get the feeling everybody's just riding around at the moment, taking things easy. Adam Benefiel is trying to get into the head of Charles Velasquez Jr., but so far hasn't really made any attempts at an overtake, as here comes the traffic. Tim Phillips has to go high as the charges are coming. Here we go. Velasquez Jr. just has to give him a little bit of space, and watch out for the rest of them coming through here over the next few laps.
And Velasquez having to be shallow on the exit will give Bryson Ixabal a slight advantage and give Benefiel a shot to jump his way up into second. You can see, I think Velasquez even scraped the wall as he headed his way down into 3 and 4. That could have ended in tears for him. The lap traffic, even in a situation like that, where the lap traffic does their best and does a very good job, frankly, credit where credit is due to Tim Phillips, there's only so much you can do on a small racetrack like this. It's not small like the way that I described it, but you can run out of space very, very quickly, especially when you come out of the turns. Got to run it up against the fence, keep the momentum rolling on this short track. Got to worry about that from the drop of the green through to the fall of the checkered. As we see some battling a little bit farther behind, we follow Blake Kluot in the number 4 car, running right in front of Lucas Hoytman, the 97. Kluot, your winner of Watkins Glen a little bit earlier on in this summer, and I know you've gotten the opportunity to be with me on the broadcast for most of the playoffs, now a little bit beforehand for that matter. I've seen a decent amount of him thus far this season, so I want to ask you what your thoughts are on the pace that we've seen out of that part-timer behind the wheel before.
Yeah, it's been okay. So since I've joined a little bit late in the season, but yeah, I mean, one of those drivers. I think I said it last time I was on, actually. It's the first round of the round of 8. Driver I would have expected and probably predicted get to the round of 8, but maybe no further. In the end, didn't get to the round of 8, unfortunately, which is a little bit of a shame. But yeah, I think maybe we'll be a little bit disappointed with the lack of run into the playoffs. Obviously, very difficult to do that running part-time and running very late in the season. But maybe something for the future to have a look at and to see, because if you're obviously joining late and only doing part-time, then it's very, very difficult to accumulate the races you need to get into the playoffs. But unfortunately, not a driver we've been able to see late on in the playoffs this year. But you never know, there's always next year, and of course the new circuits that come out as well with that, or at least a different order of them. Maybe a different configuration of circuits in the playoffs will help next year, help him go into the playoffs and go a little bit further.
We'll have to see come time for 2026 what Blake Kluot may be able to do. I know from my perspective, he has put in some darn good performances, and we'll certainly have to keep tabs on many of these racers who will look to try and hit the ground running once the 2026 season starts up in February. More on that a little bit later on in this show. For now, though, we keep tabs on this battle going on with Bryce Reiner. This is a little bit sketchy that we've got at the moment. Himself and Eddie Rose duking it out for a spot right now, and through into P6 goes Bryce Reiner. A nice move there as they headed their way through the dog leg. A controversial change that was made to this racetrack, and a bit of a shame that brought IndyCar away from this circuit for quite some time. They will be coming back here in spring of 2026 as a race that I'm very much so looking forward to as an IndyCar fan and someone who adores IndyCar oval racing. But this track and sort of the way that it is so different than the much older scan that was done of this facility that's on iRacing. I believe that scan was done in 2008. It was so old, in fact, you still had grass on the inside instead of the dog leg. You had the road course configuration that's unfortunately gone the way of the dodo bird. And if you ever look at the asphalt of the 2008 configuration, it is more, I'm trying to think of the best way I could describe it. It's more cracked up than a dry cracker being left out in the sun for 1,000 days.
Yeah, it's by the way, Bryce Reiner gets another position here on the inside in the 5 car. As McDowell now moving down to 6. Eddie Rose has been losing places pretty consistently so far, by the way. But yeah, just go back to the point on the circuit. It's been, as you say, a strange change, especially after this change was only implemented about a year or two after one of the NASCAR's closest ever finishes in the Cup Series at this circuit. Maybe in 2016 it might have been, something like that, maybe 17. Very, very close finish, and created almost entirely, I think, because this finish line was here. It's much more easy to get a side-by-side finish here on this straight than it is all the way around here, and that's a shame, I think. I don't think this works. Maybe I'm just being nostalgic, but I don't think this bit works as a 3 and 4 quite as well as it worked as a 1 and 2, but there you go.
Yeah, and I think you're right on the head there, you. And I think it did get the year correct. It was 2016, and it was, I believe, Kevin Harvick and Carl Edwards that gave us that fantastic
Throwback.
photo finish many moons ago. That was a darn good finish. I was actually tuning into some old like NASCAR Radioactive and the best of from 2016, and that was a pretty fun thing. I would hope that there's a little bit of sarcasm in that there, Howie. I would keep my fingers crossed that it is. Otherwise, we may have to break out a full-on history lesson between now and the end of the show. You will never know. I hear from the production truck. That's slightly ominous, but I'll just leave that be. Trace McDowell feeling some pressure from Eddie Rose. Gonna hold on to that P6 spot for now, but that battle still far from over us. We jump to this battle a little bit farther behind, heading downtown into turns number 3 and 4. That's Kirk Mills trying to battle hard with Matthew Boston Wheeler in the 06. Mills, unfortunately for him, could have very well found himself in the championship 4, had a couple of things gone his way a little bit earlier on in the season, and most importantly at Talladega, where he had a real shot to win, but unfortunately a blown motor right around him took him out of contention. But nonetheless, nice to see our Maconi Entertainment colleague still running strong in this season, running well in this race, as Adam Benefield just jumped up to second.
Yeah, he just got past Charles Velasquez Jr., so he's been putting that pressure on for a long time now, but has just finally gone past him, and this is sort of good practice almost for the leaders. It's one of the negatives of having a championship race here and not sort of a short points season, if you like, towards the end for the championship 4. The fact it's one race means that the stages don't really matter, so it's back to the old style effectively, where effectively lap 45 and 90 are competition cautions really. Benefield practicing his passes, and this was on Velasquez Jr. He's not very far alongside here, into 2. It doesn't get into him, so it's just a well-worked pass really. It takes a couple of corners to action, and Velasquez, I think, just lifted off a little bit towards 3 and 4 there, just to let him in. But as I say, great practice for Benefield to know what it's like to be running behind someone like that, and have a feeling of going past somebody like that as well.
And that is a slightly ominous note, seeing Adam Benefield run that well and eventually get that move done on Charles Velasquez Jr. For Bryson Ixbal, he'll be seeing that in his rearview mirror, seeing him get that move done after spending so much time in the dirty air. And that may make the number 63 driver shake in his boots a little bit as we get a little bit farther along in this race. For now, though, we're just in the final stretch of laps before we head off into that lap 45 yellow to mark the end of stage number 1. That is one thing to talk about in reference to these championship 4 races for about as long as we've had them. I mean, if everything is to go the way the media is saying that it will go, this is going to be the last year of a championship 4 race, which, you know, I would be lying if I said I would be mourning its loss.
By the way, it's not the media is saying. That is literally how it's happening. that is happening. It is not the championship race anymore. It will be in the round of 8 now, and New Hampshire loses its spot in the playoffs from the schedule that I've seen. So it's, you know, it's still a big feature towards the end, and it has 2 races as well. It's got the spring race and the fall race, which I don't think should happen at any circuit. But whatever, that's not up to me. Homestead will indeed return to the final race of the season, and I think, based on what I've read, I was reading a bit earlier today, the plan is for a number of circuits to go on a rotation, so which Phoenix will be one of. So it's not the last one, Ron. Don't worry about that. We'll be back here for a championship race in the years to come, but just not next year.
See, I do know that Phoenix will be on the rotation for the season finale. I'm just happy to say that NASCAR is probably going to be switching to either the regular old 10-race chase that they had back in the day, a final round that will be 4 races instead of just 1, or switching to a full season points format. So happy to say this will be the final championship 4 race at Phoenix. No matter when it ends up back as a season finale, we won't have to worry about the other final race shootout ever again. Fingers crossed at the very least. For now, though, that's what we've got.
Is that confirmed as true, by the way? They definitely are changing, or they're just looking at doing it?
I know that NASCAR has a bit of a reputation of lying. You know, that's usually what they do in the media, frankly. But based off the fact that even I think it was Steve Phelps a little bit earlier on, or Steve O'Donnell, that said, so those are the 3 options that they've got right now. They're probably going to tally it up. I know the other Truck Series season finale is going on right now, which we can't watch in the broadcast booth because we've got our own job to do here. We're probably doing a better job than they do on the Fox broadcast. That's neither here nor there. But After I throw that shade. Depending on how things go in that truck race, we may end up having a full season points format to look forward to in 2026. Meantime, though, before we get too lost in the NASCAR discussions, just saw a move there from Lucas Heusman to jump his way back up into the top 10 with himself and Edward Sherrod Jr. fighting off the 3 and 4 as we look at a battle a little bit farther up the road.
Yeah, so Heusman into the top 10, qualified just outside of it, of course, and as you say, will be all eyes on tomorrow. I actually think, or wondered whether he might just skip tonight and use it to practice for tomorrow. But no, he's with us, and for that we are grateful that he's with us and running in the top 10 at the moment as well. There goes Edward Sherrod Jr. just looking down the inside. Sorry, this is a different battle further up. That's Eddie Rose, rather, looking at the inside of Joseph McWhorter for 7th position. So far, sort of middling top 10 run for McWhorter, but that doesn't mean he can't improve his car, or indeed it can't come towards him in the next 160 laps, which we've still got on the clock.
There's still a long amount of racing left to go here as we get closer and closer to the end of stage number 1 would neutralize this field. Got the side-by-side racing going on with the 73 and the 46 still. That's the battle for P7 at the moment. Keep an eye on that as Joseph McWhorter, one of those championship 4 races, and you can see on the wonderful graphics that we've got here on Maconi Entertainment marked off as white right around their number. He's right in the middle of all of that as the 46 of Eddie Rose has a bit of a wiggle on through 3 and 4. Gets oh so close to that outside safer barrier, but keeps it out of it as he's still all around that 73 car like a bear rug.
Yeah, he is looking again, but not quite far enough down the inside. It'd be nice to see Eddie Rose make up some places again, because so far down 5. That's the most anybody's down, tied, of course, with Connery Cunningham in the field so far tonight. So it would be nice to see him gain some places again, and maybe the long run pace is going to be a little bit better. In terms of pace, by the way, we're now a second and a half away from the best lap time. So roughly every 15 laps we're losing half a second, as that's another dive from Rose. But when you're so tight to the inside there, you're never going to get the exit. That's what McWhorter has got. He's just got to stay alongside for 3 and 4, and he might just have done that.
Still a little bit of overlap as they head their way off through 3 and 4, but McWhorter going to keep the speed rolling on the high side. Clear him as that was a little bit of wall contact there from the 20 of Trace McDowell coming out of 3 and 4. Saw a bit of a wiggle there coming out of the turn onto that flat app last. Keeping on that 20 to maybe drop back as we get a little bit farther along in this first stage of the night. Keeping our eyes also at the front of the field as Bryson Ixenball and Adam Benefiel about 0.6 of a second separate those two racers as teeter-tottered back and forth a little bit the gap. However, it is still rather close. Keep an eye on that number 83 car of Adam Benefiel. As much as he may have less wins than Bryson Ixenball, I would say that the wins from Benefiel have been even more impressive than Ixenball's, even though there have been fewer of them.
Yeah, it's the question, isn't it, whether you count just the pure numbers, in which case Bryson Ixenball is ahead, or whether it's about the merit of those victories as well. But there we go. We'll maybe be able to settle that tonight with who takes the championship, because at the moment it is a head-to-head between those two, as it's side-by-side here for 10th. Lucas Heusman has been dipping in and out of this top 10. Looks like he might well just miss out on a top 10 in the final stage 1 of the year.
Yeah, at this point, that top 10 is pretty much just for bragging rights. Got a couple of more points if you are a driver a little bit farther behind. Meanwhile, for Bryson Ixenball, he is now 1 lap away from the stage win. Not his first stage win this season, far from it, in fact. Let's see what he can do as Adam Benefiel running right behind, 0.4 of a second the gap. Closing up, but really no point in throwing caution to the wind and trying to get the stage win. The points don't really matter for these two. They are focused on one flag and one flag alone, and that is the checkered flag at the very end of this race. As Bryson Ixenball heads his way off through 3 and 4 to win stage 1 here at Phoenix. Adam Benefiel gonna come home in a close P2. That right there was a big sideways snap, I believe, for Bryce Reiner coming out of the final turn. He ran that top 5 fittingly in that number 5 car. We'll look through the top 10 here in just a few moments' time from a very tame stage 1.
Yeah, it was, but that's what you expect from the Championship 4 race. It's Bryson Ixenball who wins by 0.4 of a second ahead of Adam Benefiel, and then non-playoff drivers Velasquez, Root, Reiner, McDowell in the top 6. Joseph McWhorter the next one in 7th. Eddie Rose, Blake Cluett, and Lucas Heusman rounding out the top 10. The only other Championship 4 driver, Eric Wineland, finishes 15th.
So there it is, stage one already in the books here at Phoenix, waiting for these racers to make that call to come down pit lane in the not too far off future. This is going to be the money stop. The pit stop's going to be oh so important throughout tonight. Got to worry about the tires, got to worry about having the car underneath you, and make sure you can hit your marks perfectly. Don't speed. If you pick up a pit lane penalty, your race is going to be just about ruined. So as we see this field heading their way down the pit lane, who's going to come out on top? I think that's a driver staying out a little bit farther behind. That's Tim Phillips, who I believe he's one lap down. And hearing as well that we do have some rather strict rules for these races to abide by on the pit stops here as well, so adds a bit more importance into it too, as we keep our eyes focused on Bryson Exenball as he trundles his way down. Has to stay on the right side for as long as he can. One of the pit lane rules that he cannot break here in this race is just running down on the inside to make sure that you can shorten up your approach. Everybody having to run by the same regulations as we keep our eyes focused on pit exit. Who's going to come out in front of who? Give it to Bryson Exenball.
Easily as well by a couple of car lengths over Benefield. Then Reiner McWhorter gets a brilliant stop up to 4th place for the 73 ahead of Raymond Root. Then it's Kluat. Hoytsmo's up a few as well. Eddie Rose battling with him. I'm not quite sure which way round they were on the exit of pit lane. Trace McDowell loses places through that stop, and Edward Scherer Jr. stays where he was. Eric Wineland also gains 3 places in that stop. He's up to 12.
And hearing as well that everybody in the pit stops decide to take all 4 tires. Can't necessarily say that I am surprised by that call. That is that's going to be the call of the night. That will be the order of the evening. The soup of the day, shall we say, here at Phoenix. But as we are under this yellow, waiting for the restart to come up here in the not too far off future, do want to raise note of the 2026 schedule, because we have got a darn good one to look forward to, and you'll be able to catch all of the action here on Maconi Entertainment. Have a heck of a lot of racing action, of course, the full season. And there you can see the schedule right there. Gonna kick it all off at Daytona the day before Valentine's Day on February 13th. Gonna be running at Atlanta, Circuit of the Americas, Phoenix for the 4th round of the season. So it won't be too long until we're back here. And there you can see the prizes on offer. The champion at the end of that season gonna pick up $500. Big cash prizes on offer for the champions of both the Friday Night Lights Series and the full-length Cup Challenge. We're gonna crown that champion tomorrow night here on Maconi Entertainment. Make sure you tune into that broadcast. Same place, same race. It'll be a heck of a lot of fun for that. But here we go. About to get stage number 2 at Phoenix up and rolling, and similar to the start, it's Bryson Exenball leading us back to green in that green number 63. He's gunned it early, and we're back in racing conditions. Side-by-side racing going on a little bit farther behind. You can see some drivers cutting some shapes on this restart. Gotta wonder, as we are under yellow for the first time here tonight, everybody's scrambling about. They've been into a little bit farther in the back. I see Charles Velasquez Jr. dropping down like a stone thrown into a pond. Matthew Boston Wheeler losing places as well. And there you can see the smoke, and there you can see the 64 all the way at the back. Charles Velasquez Jr., who thought to be the favorite heading off into this race, facing some trouble early.
Yeah, looks like it. This is it from the restart, from the very beginning, or is this still under? This is still under caution. So a lap later is what we need, and here we are. So it was definitely into 3 and 4. That's where all the smoke was. But it's up ahead here. Velasquez is going to arrive on the scene of this. Yeah, I suspected it. I think it's an incident in which nobody's actually spun all the way around. But, there was a big danger of somebody doing so at one point in turn 3 there. So caution was thrown, as you say, first for incident that we've seen tonight. 46, I think that is, getting a shot to the rear there, and actually helped the back the right way again. So nobody spun in the end, but obviously there was big contact and a big sideways moment.
And that right there was the 20 making contact side by side between the 20 and the 97 heading down to the turn. So fitting that the contact started the half spin, the slide, whatever you want to call it, the Tokyo drift, off through turns number 3 and 4, and fitting that the second bit of contact ended that slide just as quickly as it started. We were back under yellow for the second time here tonight, first time because of incidents. It was a pretty convincing restart there from Bryson Ixenball. I wonder if that inside line will be the one to choose every single time come time for these restarts.
Yeah, I suspect that it will remain the case. To be honest, it's been pretty difficult to work your way around the outside so far. But remains to be seen whether it just stays the same throughout tonight. I think the most interesting thing about these restarts at the moment is the fact that we've got a new Championship 4 driver up towards the front there. It's been Benefiel and Hixenboy in stage 1, but with Joseph McWhorter up there as well, we've got a sort of new dimension almost to this race now, which I think is good for us to see. Hopefully we can get Eric Wineland up there as well, at least at some stage tonight, to battle it out as well.
And keep an eye on that number 73 car of Joseph McWhorter. We saw earlier on this season, way back in the summer at Pocono, where McWhorter was able to grab his so far lone victory from 2025, did it with a battle with himself and Adam Benefiel right towards the very end. There were some elbows broken out and a little bit of frayed nerves as a result, but at the end of the day, there was one driver who was in victory lane and others who weren't, and that driver in victory lane at the end of the day was Joseph McWhorter. Let's see if it will go a similar way here today. He's going to try and gun for that championship. There are no doubts about that, as here we go back into the restart zone. Bryson Ixenball and Adam Benefiel leading us back to green, as once again Ixenball got off to a flyer. Everybody else duking it out right behind. They fan out 3 and 4 wide, drivers shuffling all around the racetrack as they head their way downtown into 1 and 2. Side by side racing with Adam Benefiel and Joseph McWhorter. Keep an eye on that 73 car fighting back on the inside, now side by side down the backstretch into 3 and 4.
Yeah, new dimension to this race, and McWhorter's looking to make his mark. Close on the inside as well, as Benefiel squeezes him through 3 and 4. He should have the exit, though, off the slightly steeper banking at that end of the racetrack. And here comes Bryce Reiner in the 5 car.
Here comes that 5, side-by-side racing between himself and the 73. That's one thing about the Championship 4. As much as these competitors always worry about racing each other, they have to worry about the rest of the non-playoff racers, because even though they may not be contending for a crown, they are still going to try and contend for a checkered flag. So keep an eye on those non-playoff racers to maybe play spoilers here today. You said right towards the top of the show, Ewan, and you probably think that a non-playoff racer may be the one that visits victory lane here today. I feel like if it's going to be anybody, it's going to be that 5, as he's still side by side with 73 and has really shown some pace early.
Yeah, to be fair, this prediction of mine has not looked so good so far in the first 56 laps, I must say, with the top 3 covered by Championship 4 races now. But there's others as well, like Raymond Root and Trace McDowell, who've run quite well. Lucas Hoytsman's been making his way through the field as well, so who's to say he can't do anything later on. And obviously Charles Velasquez Jr. would be a big favourite at the end of the race, maybe. Obviously just has to make up quite a lot of places.
And now as they duke it out side by side between the 5 and the 91, a bit of immunity breaking out of those non-playoff racers, duking it out for the final 2 spots inside the top 5. This is going to be gutsy. This is going to be race here, and they can't battle too hard, because look at Trace McDowell in that number 20 car. We saw the elbows get broken out, so to speak, right towards the restart of stage number 1. So keep an eye on that number 20 car to maybe get a little bit more spicy as we get a little bit farther along in this race. Still close quarter stuff all throughout this field. Hixenball leads over Benefiel, over McWhorter, over Root, over Reiner, McDowell, Hoytsma, Wineland, Kluwat, and Edward Sherrod Jr. round out your top 10 as they get closer and closer to lap 90. Lap 60.
Getting ahead of yourself. Wishful thinking. 30 laps away still, the end of the second stage, and what really is just a competition caution, really. Very minor points for some of the minor positions that are only what can be battled over, really, for those who are obviously looking for points in this, or eligible to score the stage points even in this final race of the year, as Reiner and Root Root and McWhorter rather continue on. Raymond Root has started off strongly in this restart, and looks up the inside again, tries to get clear but still can't. 73 still on the outside.
Yeah, side-by-side racing going on between these competitors. Still that abrupt transition off the banking, heading down into the apron through the dog leg. It shatters the suspension in these race cars. It shatters the spines of the drivers too, but you gotta do it if you want to be fast here at Phoenix. No pain, no gain, or whatever they say in the gym. I'm not too sure. I don't think they would let me in because I would probably be the worst gym person to ever have in your gym. Now look at side-by-side racing going on. That right there is the 73 and the 5 duking it out. Raymond Root choosing to peak at the right time as he's been able to jump in front of his non-playoff competitors as the 5 has dropped down a little bit. Not sure what the deal is for him. Was showing some good speed during stage 1, but ever since probably about 5 laps ago, we started to see the pace fall off as a 91 with a wiggle.
That was a big slide for Raymond Root, and he might have grabbed the wall as well off of 2. He's just about gathered it up again, but that will allow and invite McWhorter back into this again, along with bringing with him the likes of Reiner and Trace McDowell as well, who's in 6th, and then Lucas Hoitzma, who does seem to have good speed, but still embedded within the middle of the pack at the moment.
Yeah, and these battles in the mid-pack, a little bit terrifying for the championship for rivals for one simple reason. And it's sort of yellow, and that could potentially disrupt their strategy, especially if we get into the final stage. That would be a big wrench thrown in the works, especially if we get a yellow right before a pit window opens. We'll have to keep an eye on that all throughout this race. For now, though, 64 laps in. Not 94, as I said a few moments ago. In my defense, my screen got very blurry for a second, and it looked like we were on lap 89. I was like, surely we're not on that lap. Are you kidding me? And then I looked, I said the thing, and I am slow.
Yeah, it's time not flying quite that quickly at the moment for these, for us or indeed anybody here from Phoenix. You do clip through the laps quite quickly, to be fair. Less than 30 seconds around here, but there you go. Not quite as quickly as that. Side-by-side mean time as Blake Cluat on the outside of Edward Scherer Jr. is still where he started this stage. Hoitzma and McDowell continue on as well as Hoitzma finally gets himself into 6th position.
Yeah, I'm jumping into that spot right now. I think if anybody of the non-playoff racers is driving this race with the most amount of passion, it's probably going to be Lucas Hoitzma, with the disappointing and frankly bitter way that he got kicked out of the championship for because of some penalties. Really wasn't anything that he did either. It was other drivers getting penalized that ended up promoting Eric Wineland up a couple of spots. It was a whole deal. But if anybody in this field is running with more gumption and anger, so to speak, it's going to be Lucas Hoitzma. He wants to prove that, hey, if I was in that championship for, y'all would have had to worry about me all throughout tonight. And hey, if this is an omen for what to expect in the full-length Cup Challenge tomorrow, man, Lucas Hoitzma may be on his way to a crown sooner rather than later.
Yeah, maybe. He's certainly on the march at the moment. As we go through 1/3 of this race already, out of the 200 laps, 67 complete now, so over a third of the way through the entire distance here. And Bryson Hixenborough has led, I think, every single lap at the moment. He is under pressure from Adam Benefiel and has been under pressure from at least one other driver for the entirety of those 67, now 68 laps that have been completed tonight. But so far, he has been able to see them all off, and he has controlled this race nicely from the front. But will he be leading at lap 200? That's the all-important thing.
That's the number 200. That's a number of the night for these racers. They're all racing to that point. It's a matter of who's going to get there first. These championship 4 rivals still close up at the front, though. Bryson Hixenborough has not been able to shake off the challenge from Adam Benefiel. That number 83 car we saw in stage 1 as he was battling with Charles Velasquez Jr. He is good and rather comfortable, surprisingly comfortable, frankly, in the dirty air. Keep an eye on that Team Conti machine all throughout this race to potentially, I wouldn't necessarily say shock the world because he's been so quick throughout this season, but Adam Benefiel going to play spoilers and keep a round of playoffs of a little bit of a miserable playoff run for Bryson Extenball, frankly. If it wasn't for the huge points gap that he had heading off of these playoffs, he may have been in a lot more trouble than he was. He was able to seal the deal and get into the championship four rather quickly because of those 7 wins that he picked up in the regular season. But Extenball has not seen the same amount of pace here in these playoffs, but he'll look to change that here at Phoenix tonight.
Yeah, it's not the kind of run you'd want before the championship four. It's the thing with these playoffs, isn't it, that you do sort of need to keep up momentum, even though, you know, I'm glad that the regular season does matter, and Extenball's massive points advantages, as you say, is what's kept him in the playoffs effectively through all the 9 previous races and those 3 previous rounds. But now he's got to step up, and he is so far, but the thing will be hanging over his head about the momentum, the way this season has been going, whether it's going to continue to go like that. But so far he's led every lap and he's going well. As Joseph McWater's coming under severe pressure from Bryce Reiner. He is overtaken now. Wineland's getting in amongst it as well, just in the back end of the top 10.
Those battles in the midfield once again intense. We jump to it right now. Blake Kluot, Edward Scherer Jr., Charles Velasquez Jr., and Eric Wineland all duking it out. 2x2 pack as they head their way down the backstretch into 3 and 4. Who's going to win out in the battle up at the front? You can give that to Blake Kluot just barely as they head their way off now through 3 and 4. It's a tight battle between two rather impressive part-time competitors from this season. They've been running full-time as of late, but were late additions, so they weren't eligible for a playoff spot. But if they were, I think the 4 and the 10 would have been some sneaky contenders throughout the playoff races, as Blake Kluot and Edward Scherer Jr. both have a win apiece. They've been duking it out for some pretty good spots as well. Haven't seen them go into victory lane since then, but it's still been a pretty good season when they have shown up, so keep an eye on those two if they decide to run full-time in 2026.
Yeah, let's hope so as well, because it's going to be another great year coming up ahead. As we already showed the schedule previewing the year, it's going to be great to see once again another year of competition as Charles Velasquez Jr. starts to really properly make an impression now inside the top 10 after dropping down earlier, and he's going to win that back again before the caution, and hopefully he can make up some places in the pit stops as well to get even further back towards the front where he was before, and he will feel he belongs as Raven Root keeps third ahead of Bryce Reiner again on the charge. Both of these two, maybe the most likely candidates to be the non-championship race winners if we're going to get one tonight.
Still plenty of time between now and the checkered flag for those non-playoff racers to rise to the occasion, jump up into those top spots, and give those championship 4 drivers a bit of a headache as we get a little bit farther along here tonight. It's still Bryson Extenball and Adam Benefield in P1 and P2, just McWhorter, third of those championship 4 competitors, slotted in P5. Eric Wineland has been at the back of the playoff racers all throughout tonight, is slotted down in 12th. Wineland's 1 win came at another short track, that being at Bristol, but outside of that, we didn't see too much of him in that drafty car machine. Drafty car 2 now, in fact. A nice silvery and purple looking paint scheme, a darn good looking race car, but doesn't seem to have a whole lot of speed in the car, as he's currently in a hornet's nest with the likes of Connery Cunningham in front and Kyle Amon right behind.
Well, there's a big dive from Amon on the inside line of Eric Wineland, who was very briefly inside the top 10. He's continuing to struggle for pace tonight, but as long as he can continue to make improvements to his car, then that's all he can do at this stage in the race, and just hope that this comes to him in the darkness. This track is really going to change as the track temperature falls. We started the race in the 80s. We still are in terms of temperature, but the sun has now gone behind the grandstands, and this track will begin to cool. And maybe it will change the balance for some of these drivers in their favour or not. Just have to see which way it goes.
And looking at those track conditions, thank you very much, Howie, for the quick work on the graphic there in the production truck. It's pretty stable at the present moment. We haven't seen too much of a drop-off yet. Emphasis on yet. That's the thing about the desert. As much as the desert may be known as just being burningly hot all the time, it gets very cold at night. So we may have to worry about that a little bit later on here. I think, I mean, Phoenix, Arizona is usually described as America's oven. That's at least the way that I usually see it. There are many towns that I want to go to, but probably because I'm a bit on the fluffier end, so to speak, I think would probably be the best way to say it. I don't really like the heat, so Phoenix I can't necessarily say is a town that I would go to just because I do not want to melt into a puddle on the ground, but these racers don't have to worry about their tires melting. But right now, melting under pressure is a 73 of Joseph McWhorter as he ends up big time on the fence, heading off through 3 and 4, clipped it on the entry with the rear right, and then that just got him stuck up in the fence. He's now dropped down outside the top 5. Lucas Hoisma just got that move done.
Yeah, that's one thing you absolutely cannot afford, by the way, if you're in the Championship 4. You cannot afford damage this early, still in the first half of this race, and if you end up spending repairs, then it's going to be a very, very long evening indeed. But Hoisma into the top 5, and he's been perhaps the most impressive in making overtakes so far. That's up 6 for him now. To be fair, isn't up as many as McWhorter, actually, when you look at it in that sense compared to where they qualified. But nevertheless, Lucas Hoisma has been making some good overtakes, some considered overtakes, and he will get a restart on about lap 95 with 7 to go until the second stage. A lot closer to Hixenbaugh and Benefield than he has been in the past.
So as we continue to see these drivers battling up towards the front, lot of tension building already, and now I can say it, as we get closer to lap 90, second tries a charm for me being able to say that, and this time it's actually accurate. About 85 laps already in this race. This stage 2, even with that incident a little bit earlier on, is really flying by. These competitors have put their nose to the grindstone and running a pretty smooth race, it must be said, as we look at the 10 and the 64 currently duking at. This is the battle for P8 at the moment, as Trace McDowell right in front of these two.
Yeah, you know, there's many pros and cons, isn't there, to the way that we run the playoffs these days in NASCAR, well, for all 3 series now. I think, unfortunately, one of the disadvantages of having the championship race like this is the fact that it effectively nullifies the first 90 laps of this race, really, as far as it really mattering. I mean, as I said earlier, there's some minor points that, you know, some of the guys further down will be able to pick up, but you know, that would all change only the minor positions, really. I mean, Charles Velasquez Jr., if he picks up these couple of points at the moment, might move into 6th in points, but I mean, is he really going to care about that? I'm not really sure he will do. Just nullifies it a little bit early on, which is a bit of a shame. Personally, I would like to see either the stages matter as part of a longer run to the end in the championship. This is in real life, by the way, and therefore in our series as well. Or indeed, say multiple races, or indeed the stage points matter, or just get rid of the stages in the final race, because you know, it just doesn't really matter. And it, as I said earlier, effectively acts as 2 competition cautions.
Yeah, I think I really like the way you put that there, Ewan. Kind of these stage breaks in this season finale with the championship format. It is, I wouldn't say it's meaningless, as that was the 10 with a huge snap off through turn number 3 and 4. That could have ended in catastrophe as he tried to slip back in tow of the 64 right in front. It ended smoothly, though. I mean, your rear tires are probably screaming in agony, but, you know, you got to take the wins when they are allotted, I guess, potentially. I'm not really sure how that works. My rear tires, if I did that back in my karting days, they would be screaming in torture and would probably try and off me in my sleep. So that's really, it's a tough game to play that as the tire grip continues to fall away. Getting closer and closer now to the end of this stage. Bryson Hixenbaugh still leading over Adam Benefield. He has had a pretty good and firm grip on this race ever since the drop of the green, and looks to try and complete off these first 2 stages in the smoothest way imaginable. Still some battling going on all around this pack. We jump to this hornet's nest, though. This is a little bit hair raising as the 06 Matthew Boston Wheeler, Eddie Rose right in front. Eric Wineland a little bit farther up the road with Matthew Boston Wheeler and Kyle Amon right back in tow, and I think Noah Woods also has a piece of that drama as well. Keep an eye on these competitors as we get to the end of this stage. Bryson Hixenbaugh and Adam Benefield finish 1 and 2 in it. It's going to be Bryce Reiner slotted in 3rd, Raymond Root in 4th, Lucas Hoitzman in P5, Joseph McWhorter in 6, Charles Velasquez Jr. will finish right behind in P7, Edward Cherry Jr., Trace McDonald, and Blake Kluot complete your top 10 at the end of this race. So at the end of the stage, I should say. So there it is. The stages have been taken care of, and we've got ourselves another dash to the end.
Yep, 110 laps, or more accurately, about 105 when we go back racing again. And if we continue on with the long green flag runs we've had, we're going to actually get green flag stops as well, which would be quite exciting. I don't know if we're going to manage that, though, with the cautions more likely to come out second time around. Around the outside works Brian Workman, and he will get back onto the lead lap. Pleased to say that despite a little bit of damage for some further behind, including Workman, who had a 1 minute pit stop under the caution previous time, and Daniel Llewellyn, who spent 36 seconds in pit lane first time round as well. Everybody undamaged, getting to the end of stage 2, all 25 of them on the lead lap still.
And here they go, trundling down pit lane, led by Bryson Hickson-Ball. Had so many wins throughout the regular season. Adden got a lot of good pace here in the playoffs, but wants to end them off in the best way imaginable with a trip off into victory lane once again, and a trip into destiny as your champion here in 2025. Looking at everybody hitting their marks in pit lane as best as they can. Up on the jacks they're gonna go. Probably gonna take 4 tires once again here in this stop, as they saw in the first stage, and away they're gonna go. It's close. It's very close up at the front, but that is going to be advantage Bryson Hickson-Ball once again. It was close though with Adam Benefiel.
Yep, McWhorter makes up a couple of places. He's up to 4th, but one of them at the expense of Lucas Hoitzma, who's outside the top 10. Eric Wadland inside the top 10 as well, coming off of pit lane for the first time tonight. Trace McDowell, another slow stop, unfortunately dropping down to 10th position, so that is a bit of a shame. These are the way that the pit stops affect these races when they're under caution. How many more times are we going to see that this season? Was that the last 25 drivers down pit lane in one go sequence we're going to see this season? If there's another caution in about 50 laps or so, then it certainly won't be the only time.
Yeah, that it will not. I raised that worry a little bit earlier on in this broadcast about how a yellow during this final stage could very well turn this race on its head. Can't necessarily say we're at the woodwork of that just yet. These competitors have put together a clean race. Only 1 yellow, 4 incidents up to this point. Actually, no, that was... Well, actually, was that the first yellow? I believe we have only had one. My brain is getting kerfuzzled with the amount of action we've had up to this point here tonight. And in my defense, I will say this is also my 3rd broadcast thus far this evening, so I will cut myself a slight bit of slack there. But, you know, I say that, I'm just giving myself excuses. I'm just a little bit slow. These racers looking out to be slow, though, as we get to the very end. This is the time to bring your stuff. This is the time to peak. Who's going to be able to get a good run to end off this season strong? You still got your 2 championship rivals of Bryson Hickson-Ball and Adam Benefiel. Got Joseph McWhorter right in tow, and you got that 5 of Bryce Reiner, who's been a challenger all throughout tonight, as we're back to green flag racing to start off this final stage of this season. Here they go, heading down into 1 and 2.
Now this is where it really matters. This is where the championship's won over the next 100 laps, and Hickson-Ball is going to look to dominate the way that he has so far tonight. Reiner on the inside, giving Adam Benefiel the most to think about for laps in stage 2. Benefiel got to 2nd on the opening lap and never looked back from there. Reiner is making this stage much more difficult for him.
Yeah, Bryce Reiner, speaking of peaking at the right time, he is being a big thorn in the sides of the 83 of Adam Benefiel. We mentioned the dynamic between Championship 4 competitors and non-playoff drivers. That always makes it a bit more tense when you've got the 2 going side by side. You got drivers with different agendas, drivers with different ideas in their head as to how the night's going to go, and sometimes that clashing of ideas can end in a clash out there on the road. Saw some drivers up in the fence. I think that may have been Adam Benefiel with a bit of a wiggle as he headed his way off through 1 and 2. Keep an eye on him as he slowly but surely tries to reel in Bryson Hickson-Ball. I don't think that's his main idea, though. He's really got to worry about that 5 car. That 5 machine of Bryce Reiner seems to be fantastic on the short runs.
Yeah, very much so, and you know, not bad I would say on the long runs, but would definitely prefer a 10-lap dash to the finish. Benefield, without a great run off of 4, is under pressure again here through this exceedingly wide 1 and 2. It's great for racing this part. The fact it's so flat and so wide. Benefield, though, able to hold firm again on the outside.
And as we see them heading their way down into 3 and 4, Adam Benefield, this is not the way that he wanted to get this second stage up and rolling at all. Bryce Reiner probably feeling good about his chances at this exact point in time. Didn't show too much during stage 2, however. Looks like that car has found another gear. One thing that we do have to raise that we talked about a little bit earlier on in this broadcast, you raised it, I believe, Ewan, talking about the change in conditions. The lights are now on around Phoenix. That sun is slowly but surely dipping below that horizon, and we are going to have to worry about this track starting to cool off. And with the track cooling off, we'll have to worry about what sort of race cars are going to cool off in their pace.
Well, exactly. McWhorter at the moment is the one who's going backwards early, but to be fair, it's sort of been the medium sort of runs where he's been strongest. In the background, Eric Wineland is continuing to make up positions. He's now into 7th. Lucas Hoitzma, the one going backwards on this restart, but he's been preferring those longer runs. He was really motoring towards the very end of that second stage, rather, making up places. And meantime, here comes Hoitzma, maybe trying to regain some of those he lost. Wineland without such a good run off of 4 that time round.
So through into that spot he's going to go. You always got to capitalize on the mistakes here at Phoenix. We always talk about the challenge of this racetrack, and whenever you have a challenging track, you got to pounce on your competitors at the right time. Say, you know what? You had the small little trip up. You're never going to let it down, my friend. You are never going to let it down. It's basically like us here in the broadcast booth. If we make some small little trip up, our coworkers are never going to let us go for it. You know, I said that we were getting to the end of the stage when we were on lap 60 out of 90. We all have our moments.
Yeah, I haven't brought it up once. See,
that's Howie. I'm not throwing you to the coals. I'm throwing Howie to the coals. Howie, I love you.
Yeah. Well, is that the dessert like the pudding or is that? No, I know what that's referencing, but I'm just wondering whether dessert has been, dessert or dessert. I didn't know.
I'm dyslexic. I am of no assistance in this debate.
Okay, and I don't know the answer either. I haven't even got an excuse, so I just don't know the answer. So there you go. But yeah, that's effectively a distillation of what Ron was just saying. Anyway, Bryce Reiner pretty close behind Adam Benefield for second, and yeah, that does look right, to be fair. Anyway, we'll see whether Reiner can get through here on Benefield, who is just seeing a gap open to Bryson Hixenbaugh, who's still leading here. Absolutely dominated so far tonight.
Yeah, Hixenbaugh in that number 63 car. I gotta say, even though he hasn't shown a lot of pace during the playoffs, there's any race where he can show up and bring the thunder. This is probably the race to do it at, and Hixenbaugh has certainly done that up to this point here in the race. 96 coming to 95 laps left to go for him, as it's still about a half a second between himself and Adam Benefield. As much as Benefield was feeling some pressure, it looks like he's coming back to form. I gotta wonder how the long run speed is looking in that number 83 machine.
Yeah, we're going to find out once again here, or another installation of that, installment rather, of that in this final stage. It looks like going to be very interested to see what happens when we get to about 60 to go and see whether we're going to see some stops. Every single driver, because everyone's on the same tyre strategy here, has got 2 new sets of 4 tyres down on pit road at the moment, waiting for them to be used at some stage, and it remains to be seen when they are going to use them in that in this final stage. They will definitely pit at least once if it goes green, but will somebody even try a very early stop at about 70 to go and try and upset the field?
That would be interesting. See a curveball get thrown these competitors' ways. I would be a fan of that. I'm gonna be honest. I think that would add in a nice little dynamic at the end of this race. Those pit stops going to be important for so many reasons. Got to worry about the tires as we get farther along. Got to worry about making those adjustments and keeping with it as that sun dips below the horizon and this track goes from a current level of hotness and probably continues to cool off as it goes along. It's having a pie on the windowsill. Eventually, that pie is gonna be cool enough that you can cut in and have a good time. Enjoy that pie while it lasts, and probably finish the thing off in one sitting and then feel really bad the next morning when you jump on the scale. All these racers, though, got to worry about how their cars are going to evolve, so that may be one slight deterrent in coming in early, because you can't really predict with the adjustments too well.
Yes, it's true that, it's a big risk to go early, but I do almost think for McWhorter and Wineland, who seem to not have the speed at the moment, that it would be worth it coming in early, try something a little bit different, because at the moment Hixenberg or Benefield is going to win the title, and at the moment you'd have to say Bryson Hixenberg is the overwhelming favourite, and McWhorter's being attacked now by Charles Velasquez Jr. Of course, no shame in being attacked by Velasquez Jr. given his speed, and maybe he's going to be one of those non-championship drivers to upset things tonight as far as the race win is concerned. But McWhorter is about to be pushed out of the top 5 by the looks of things.
Yeah, they're side by side coming into turns number 1 and 2, keeping on that 64, trying to keep it clean and tidy on the inside line. Will it be an overtake? Will it be a spot inside of the top 5 for Charles Velasquez Jr., or is McWhorter going to hang on? What we have seen, though, from these playoff racers, and we still have a long time left to go, but I will just say my own observation right now, looks like the 63 and the 83 have really been in their own league when it comes to the pace out of those playoff contenders. The 73 has been firmly in third, as Eric Weinland has been running as high as lower ranks inside the top 10, but haven't seen too much of a spark out of that number 87 car throughout tonight, so maybe a tough road ahead if they want to bring home a championship at the end of this race. Now, within the final 90 laps, we jump to this battle. This is currently for second, with Adam Benefield once again feeling some pressure from the 5 of Bryce Reiner.
Yeah, very much so. And so Benefield's got to sort of balance these, if you like, trying to chase down Hixenberg and stay with him at the moment, as that gap just seems to get larger with each stage. He seems to be less able to stay with him with every stage that we go through here, but also try and keep Bryce Reiner behind, which is not going to be particularly easy either. That's a big slide coming off of 4 from Eddie Rose in the background there. 10th place still for Rose, after losing those opening lap positions. He's not really been able to recover them, and Matthew Boston Williams trying to take his spot inside the top 10 here.
Looking at that side-by-side racing going on right behind between Wineland and Rose. It will be tense as they head their way down now to 3 and 4. The 06 drifts up big time into the 46. They keep it tidy, though. That could have ended in absolute catastrophe as they headed their way all through the final 2 turns. But thankfully for the both of them, they kept it going in a straight line. Rose occupies that final spot inside the top 10. And now look at Matthew Boston Wheeler feeling some pressure from Connery Cunningham in that number 78 car right in tow.
Yeah, absolutely there. As meantime, further up front, this is Raymond Root being attacked by Charles Velasquez Jr. That 64 car looking strong tonight, up to 4th position now. I get the feeling he might need another caution to get involved for the race lead, but he has got some very good speed and the ability to overtake as well, which, as we've seen from these 3, not everyone has got.
Yeah, there are not many competitors that have had the same level of spark that others have had, as that's a 5-car drifting up a little bit as he heads his way off through 3 and 4. Bryce Reiner, I still think that he has been the most impressive non-playoff racer from the night thus far. Raymond Root was in front of him for a brief period of time. I still think Charles Velasquez Jr., if he can keep it clean between now and the end, would still be a big thorn in the side, not just to Bryce Reiner, but to both Bryson Hixenberg and Adam Benefield right at the north end, contending for a championship. We talked about it all throughout the playoffs, and it feels like I wouldn't necessarily say a missed opportunity, as things just didn't fall his way in the round of 8 after missing out in the first round and having some falling anvils come down on his head in the final 2 races of that playoff round. But Charles Velasquez Jr., if he was in the championship 4, he would be a big thorn in the side to Hixenbaugh and Benefiel.
Yeah, certainly would. And that could be very, very interesting to watch if that sort of situation materialises in the last 82 laps, as it will be now. Can Joseph McWhorter benefit from the scenarios up ahead of us in these next 82 miles of racing? So far, he's shown himself to have a top 5 car tonight, but maybe no better than 5th. Can he just improve his positions or find some way of bringing Hixenbaugh and Benefiel towards him to try and pass them for the championship later on tonight? At the moment, looking difficult. Hixenbaugh continues to dominate.
Yeah, Bryson Hixenbaugh, he's kept Adam Benefiel at a distance. Hasn't been able to shake him off entirely, but he's just been putting enough pace on the racetrack where he can keep him a little bit out of reach. Adam Benefiel, he's not exactly out of it, but there's only been a few points in times where he's been fully in it either. I think the best way to describe it is, if you have one foot in the door, would you say that you're in the building, or do you say that you're still trying to enter it? I think that's the state that Adam Benefiel finds himself in. He's got that one foot in the door, just waiting for that door to fully open up so he can finally walk in.
I don't think many people spend much time thinking about it as much as you do, by the sound of it. But there you go. That's just my observation.
I'll see myself out.
Or at what point will you be out, though? That's the thing.
Where's my Ronisms compilation? You know, I can't say the name of the broadcasting company, but there is one that has said that they're probably going to make a video at some point farther down the line of the many odd things that have come out of my mouth. I think a broadcast I was on a week and a half ago, I was talking about Usain Bolt running in shoes made out of chocolate pudding. I want to specify at this exact point in time, this is just a product of being from the city of Philadelphia and whacking your head too much as a child. I'll tell you, and this is honest, a true story from my childhood. My parents used to have to wrap around a pool noodle on the coffee table down the living room of our house, just so I wouldn't smash my head into it every single time I was running around downstairs.
You do seem to blame a lot on Philadelphia, by the way. When are you going to... Are you going to compliment it ever?
Oh, we got some good food here. I love being in the city of Philadelphia, but it's the reason why I say a lot of weird stuff, because what Philadelphians say, it usually ranges between saying weird things or saying curses. And because we're on the broadcast and I can't say curses, I just say weird things.
Yeah, fair enough. All right, yeah, okay. I'll wait for the moment you give credit to Philadelphia for something it's given you, rather than, in a positive way. Yeah, maybe that'll be coming one day. But anyway, I'll wait for the next 76 laps to see if we can get that before the end. As Eddie Rose and Matthew Boster-Wheeler continue here for ninth place. Eric Wineland has just escaped from these two, and just as well, because they are really starting to cost themselves time in this group. Kirk Mills first into the pit lane. Now, I did say that we would maybe see something around 70 to go, or previewed that somebody might try something. It's got to be a 2-stop in this case, unless Mills has got a drive-through penalty for some reason. No, he is coming into the box, so here we go. This could really kick something off down pit lane.
Yeah, so here we go. Kirk Mills setting a trend, maybe, potentially. We'll just have to find out if anybody decides to shadow his call. I mean, the first stages are usually the opportunity for these racers to enjoy the most amount of grip that they will ever feel throughout this race. Then we get to the final one, this marathon run through to the fall of the checkered flag, and that's when it gets a little bit tense, maybe a little bit terrifying even, as we continue to see the battles out there on the racetrack. The front three are still covered by not a whole lot, less than a second, in fact. Separate all of them as you have to go back about another second, 1.2 seconds, in fact, from the back of Bryce Reiner's number 5 machine to the front of the number 64 of Charles Velasquez Jr. These top three have been in a league of their own ever since the drop of the green, as the sun continues to dip below the horizon and the fluorescent lights around this racetrack shine brighter and brighter with every passing moment. These three will continue to duke it out for the race win unless they have some chicanery in the pit lane. We've already talked about the pits. We just saw Kirk Mills make that call. I think the pit stops are going to be what decides the fate of not just this race, but this season too.
Yeah, it certainly will be. I mean, it's certainly in the negative sense. If anybody makes a mistake in these pit stop phases, then I would go as far to say it's absolutely over for them with this amount of laps remaining, and the prospect of not even seeing another caution before the season is out here. You've got to absolutely nail it in that sense. No penalties can be afforded, but the lap at which you pit is going to be so crucial as well. We are a second and a half away from our current best times as far as the leaders are concerned. Hixenborough's best at 27.1, last time 28.5, as it was for all three of the leaders, in fact, for Benefiel and Reiner as well. So they will be losing time. Kirk Mills will be gaining time on them at the moment, but the question is going to be when they blink here. What's their entrance going to be like? What's their stop going to be like when they actually do finally come in here? Going to be so crucial for the outcome of this season.
It will most definitely be vital, and these competitors know that. That could be part of the reason why we saw them practicing the pit entry right towards the start of this broadcast, a lot during practice as well. The pit entry, super tricky here at Phoenix, as it may not be the biggest transition from the high banks onto the apron. It may not be the most abrupt turn down in the pits, but it's just a very awkward section for these racers and for these race cars to try and negotiate, so we will have to add a lot of importance into that too. That's the 83 of Benefiel, once again ending up on the wall as he headed his way out of 1 and 2. I'm not sure, I'm just not seeing the same spark from that number 83 car that we saw a little bit earlier on. Running up to the fence, there's Bryce Reiner as he blinks in and out of existence. The Martians have arrived here at Phoenix. He is going to be another thorn in the side to both of these racers. I can't say it's just the number 83 of Benefiel that will be feeling the burn. The both of them are going to be, because they know this is not just a battle for temporary track position. This is a battle for the win. And as much as you can still get the championship with a P2 and finishing ahead of the rest of the championship 4, the win would be nice.
Yeah, it would absolutely assure it, of course. And you know, you're looking at this at the moment, and it does look like a championship 4 driver is going to win, contrary to my prediction at the start of the day, which I don't think is looking terrible, with Bryce Reiner looking pretty speedy there in 3rd position. So far, with the way that Hixenborough and Benefiel have just mobbed the top 2 positions now for nearly 100 laps. They've been running 1 and 2. It's looking like it's going to be a championship 4 race win kind of week, a kind of year, I should say. But Bryson Hixenborough so far has absolutely dominated the first 2/3 of this race. Nothing has changed from lap 1 to lap 134, which we are now completing. It's been complete domination from the beginning. The question is for the others. How can they get ahead of him? Because they haven't even had the chance to defend from him making a pass yet. That's how dominant it's been.
And it's so surprising to see the non-playoff racers be really shut out of this race up to this point, considering so many different winners we have had up to this point. I mean, looking through the past couple of weeks here in the Friday Night Lights Xfinity Series and the race winners that we have had, it's really just a who's who of the non-playoff racers that have impressed quite a lot. Of course, last time out, Bryce Reiner was able to get the W. That was a pretty darn good result from him. The race prior to that at Talladega, Andrew Dyson was the one sneaking away with the race win. His 2nd win this season, but he's on the FLCC side of things, so he's not contending for the championship in this series. You look before that, Tommy Gossett won the race at Las Vegas a couple of weeks prior to that. That was his 1 and only win this season. The last time that we saw playoff winners was back in round 12, and they were all playoff winners in the round of 12. There was Eric Wineland scoring his one and so far only victory in the playoff opener at Bristol. It was Charles Velasquez Jr. winning his third and so far final race win at Kansas. And in the Rovals, Adam Benefiel winning that race, punching his ticket into the round of 80, even though he had already done so on points the week prior. So you look through, even before then in the regular season, we had so many one-off winners, drivers not really contending for the championship, just showing up either for a little bit of trophy hunting from the FLCC side of things, or just showing up to try and dip their toes into the full-length challenge world. So many non-playoff racers have contended for the win. That's a little bit surprising that they've shut out this race right now as Hicksonball now feeling the burn from Benefiel. As I was going on my jib-jab, Benefiel has really closed up that gap.
He has. This is the closest it's been, and don't forget, this is no longer than a run we've had in one of the stages so far. This green flag run is now numbering just about 45 laps, and that has triggered some stops. Raymond Root, the biggest name of them, in 91, although Eddie Rose from the top 10 for most of today is also down pit lane, joining Kirk Mills to have made the stops already. Hicksonball under the biggest pressure he's been under tonight. The home stretch as far as the 2025 championship is concerned, and Benefiel is making his mark.
Yeah, and that he is pouncing at the right time. Benefiel, he's been there throughout most of the race, but he hasn't really been too much of a thorn in the side to Hicksonball. Hasn't given that number 63 driver a headache at all throughout this race, but he's deciding to do it at the right time. So close as they go side by side. Off through 3 and off through 1 and 2, my apologies. This is into 3 and 4. Switch the old configuration there for a couple of moments in my head. Hicksonball feeling the burn, feeling the pressure, and maybe feeling a little bit hot under his collar right now. This number 63 driver has not felt pressure like this at all in this race, but Benefiel is bringing the thunder.
Yeah, it certainly is. Kirk Mills, by the way, is ahead of Root and Rose, so just shows you the advantage you can have on new tyres. Are any of these three going to blink earlier than the majority of the field here to try and get a bit of an undercut on tyres? If Benefiel decides that he can't work his way past on the racetrack, he might decide that that's the better option down pit lane.
Yeah, and when we get to those pit stops, so you think about the tension that we're under right now, my gosh, it is going to be cranked up even more. Hicksonball gets way wide, way high, all through 1 and 2. Benefiel gets closer and closer. It's a case of Icarus flying with those wax wings, but I don't think he's flying too close to the sun that those wings are going to melt. He's doing that to Hicksonball. He is melting his wings. He's walking around him with a candle, and he is starting to melt them right now. Hicksonball, who seemed unstoppable a matter of about 25 laps ago, he's really feeling under pressure. Here we go. Benefiel once again draws along side by side. So close to contact as they come onto the backstretch.
He will not want to tip his rival into a spin, though. This early on, he will not want contact, surely. As Daniel Llewellyn, by the way, is just running up in front of them. There's a lot of lap traffic just in front because these stages so far have effectively been keeping everybody on the lead lap. 25 were on the lead lap coming into that pit lane last time round. Now there's traffic. Now there's a move for the lead. Here comes Benefiel again.
Every single time he gets closer and closer, has been able to fully get the move done, yet hasn't been able to fully get along side by side on the exit. The problem with going for the move on the inside through Phoenix is you can't keep the momentum rolling. This is a momentum-based track. You gotta do it as Eric Wineland, the first of the championship 4 contenders to make that decision to come down pit lane. He's been the farthest back so far. He needs to make the swing of things as here comes Benefiel on the outside of Hicksonball, who comes down pit lane. Interesting call from Hicksonball. Was thinking that Wineland would be alone and by himself in that call to come down pit lane, but Hicksonball gonna see the light and come down too.
Well, the first time tonight, Bryson Hicksonball has not been leading the race as he goes in search of his 8th win of the year, but by far the most important win of the year. If he were to be able to take it here, he'll run round the outside of pit lane as they've been instructed to do here, just the same as Wineland is doing on the way out of pit lane. Hicksonball doing it on the way in. He pulls into the very last box, the pole sitter's box. He nails his marks and now waits for the 4 tyres to be changed around halfway through this final stage.
Up on the jacks, he's gonna go. Adam Benefield down in pit lane himself. He'll be joined by Blake Kluot and Matthew Boston Wheeler. 14.2 seconds down in the pit stall for Bryson Ixenball. He gasses up the throttle, rejoins the racetrack a little bit farther back compared to where he's been at all throughout this race. And now we keep our eyes focused on Adam Benefield. A black flag for Blake Kluot, a pit lane penalty for him. Looked like he was very fast on pit lane as well. But here we go. Benefield now out and away. 14.6 seconds in the pit stall. Will he be able to jump out to the race lead? He will not. Ixenball gets a much quicker run through pit lane, and there goes that challenge. It's still not over yet, though. A lot of time left for Benefield to shake it off and close up that gap, but Ixenball did himself a whole lot of favors with that pit stop.
Yeah, and also by pitting a lap early, that's what really created this gap as well, because at this stage they're running between 1.5 seconds and 2 seconds slower than their previous bests, and that's one of the reasons why. This, meanwhile, is Blake Kluot speeding into pit lane. I don't know if he got that right, but he sped later. But as we joined him and as we looked at him, he was going exceptionally quickly. So for a pit lane anyway, so I don't know whether it was just the camera angle, the fact that he's going around the corner, which makes it look like he's going faster than he actually is. That may well have been the case, but yeah, it looks like that was indeed the case. But yeah, that's unfortunately a speeding penalty, and it's going to take him off the lead lap here.
Unfortunate moment for Blake Kluot. He has had some very good races in his time here in this series, but small little mistakes like that have set him back more often than not. If he can get those refined and he runs full time in 2026, who knows what that driver, the number 4 car, may be able to do. We jump to the front, though. This is a battle as it stands currently for third in this race. All of these racers have yet to come down pit lane, though. It's actually, my apologies. This is I was keeping my eyes focused on the 73 that I didn't even notice the fact it was Bryson Ixenball duking it out. This is the battle with himself and Raymond Root. Root came down pit lane a heck of a lot earlier. 11 laps already in this stint for him compared to Ixenball at 4. I do apologize for that confusion from my end there, but nonetheless, that right there is Ixenball moving his way up into P11. Now has the cars of Hoytsma and Bryce Reiner to worry about soon. He gets a lap back from Hoytsma. Reiner about 3 seconds farther up the road. Daniel Llewellyn in the 07 car in the midst of all that too.
Yeah, so that will be important for getting onto the lead lap at all, actually, here. That will be the big thing as Hoytsma put a lap down there, as far as I can see. Oh, sorry, no, that's unlapping as well, because he's in second place. Didn't realise he hadn't stopped yet either, along with Joseph Warder, who's now doing the opposite of, instead of, and I do commend this, by the way, I do think this is a good idea, either come in really early, try and upset it that way, or stay out really late, and that's what he's doing right now. He'll take second because Bryce Reiner's in.
You got to run the extremes. That's what you got to do when you find yourself, necessarily speaking, on the ropes, so to speak. I think that may be not exactly the best way to go about saying that, but it's what you got to do when you got to make a swing of things. Just say, you know what? I can't win this race. I can't finish in front of my rivals by doing exactly what they're doing. I'm going to have to throw caution to the wind and try and do something a little bit different. We keep our eyes locked on the 83 and the 91. That is going to be a swap-a-roo for spot overall in this race. That's P10 at the moment, so I have to worry about some pit stops for the drivers a little bit farther in front. Brian Wortman currently splitting the cars of Ixenball and Benefield. Now was splitting the 2 cars as he's on the high side. Lets those racers go by. He's currently 61 laps into that stint, so those tires probably screeching in agony. McWhorter, meanwhile, running in second. We'll have to see him come down pit lane soon here, too. I wonder if he's banking on maybe, as we have drivers on much fresher tires and battling drivers on much older tires, that does run the risk of there being a potential yellow. I wonder if McWhorter is putting all of his chips into that basket.
Yeah, I think so. And, he's kind of got to at this stage, because he's stayed out long enough now that there's almost no point coming in under green until you absolutely have to. Lucas Hoytsma has decided to come in now. He could really restrict the amount of drivers on the lead lap, and he could give himself an extra set of tyres to play with as well. He's still got his 2 sets down in pit lane. The others who have stopped under green so far have only got the 1 now, so that's another advantage that will be going into his favour. But this is going to be a pretty miserable time of constantly being overtaken for as long as this stage in the race is going on for him.
Yeah, that is a rather miserable point in time where it's like I am doing everything that I can, but it feels like my car is being powered with turkey gravy. It is not a good position to be in at all. Oh, as you can see a wiggle there from the corner, hitting onto that apron. I talked about that transition from the banking onto the apron a little bit earlier on. That is super abrupt. Usually in oval racing, you don't have to do that at all. Usually the only time you have to do that is when you come down pit lane. Here, however, you pretty much have to do that every single lap. It's whenever I watch a Phoenix race with my father, who's 68, he never really understands the appeal of having that dog-like section where you have to dive it down, and sometimes they can fan out 7 wide nearly, heading off into to turn number 1 and 2. Reminds me of a Pocono IndyCar race back in 2015 when I think they were 11 wide, heading onto the start-finish straightaway on a restart. So, that's just kind of the parts of the quirks and features here at Phoenix, so to speak.
Yeah, absolutely. As McWhorter finally blinks, probably has to soon because he's been out there nearly 70 laps now. Connery Cunningham will now take the lead. Trace McDowell follows through as well. McWhorter the only one to come in this time round, and that only leaves Cunningham and McDowell to have not stopped in this, along with Michael Deitch as well, who hasn't stopped, and Brian Workman actually, who's in the midfield as well, who hasn't stopped just yet. They are still going, hoping to catch a caution, but it's more likely that Bryson Hickson catches and overtakes them before the caution comes out. 40 to go. This would be the tyres they stay on to the end of the race, if indeed they go green to the finish. Benefield is catching Hickson again to put the same pressure on him as what he had onto him at the end of the previous run.
Yeah, and look at the time that Benefield has been able to make up lap after lap. I say that right as he goes into the red. That is the commentator's jinx right there from Benefield, losing out on a little bit of time last time by to Hickson. It's still not a huge drop-off. We're talking about only a matter of a few hundredths of a second, but those small little differences can make a big difference come time for the end of this race. I always talk about this in terms of trying to bring down a gap. You don't file your nails by taking a chainsaw to them. You use a nail file like a normal person, and you just slowly but surely work at it, take a little bit of time, and eventually those small little scrapes, that small little bit of filing will make a difference after a while. Benefield having to play the patient game here, try and reel them in slowly but surely. Don't hack at it too much, otherwise you may put yourself in a bad situation. And we bring up the tire discussion yet again, because if we do have a little bit of chaos a little bit later on in this race, if chaos and pandemonium breaks out and we get ourselves into some overtime situations, we could very well find one of these racers starting to struggle.
I must admit, I personally hope that we don't see overtimes and late runs here. I want to see, if there is going to be another caution, I want to see it, with enough laps remaining for it to be a proper run to the finish, because those for me are the more exciting ones to watch when you're coming down towards the very end of a race, and indeed the end of the season as we are here tonight. I think those longer runs are more exciting. If Benefield can run down Hickson and really give him a proper go, whoever wins out these two, it's going to be very enjoyable to watch if indeed it does end like that with a great battle between the two. Hickson has not quite led every lap now, but he has absolutely dominated tonight. With 35 to go, he is being run down by Adam Benefield, who has had a very good season in his own right. 5 race wins in his 24 starts, only outside of the top 10 on 3 of those 24 starts, this being his 25th of the year, and both of them are deserving champions, but only one can be in 35 laps time.
Yeah, only one man can walk away with the title, even though the both of them have thoroughly earned it with the season that they have put in. They have been itchy and scratchy. They have been the dominant forces from the drop of the green flag at Daytona all the way back in February through to this point in the race, with 34 laps left to go here at Phoenix right at the end of October. You've been able to catch the action here on Maconi Entertainment, and we still got a lot of action to keep our eyes on between now and the checkered flag. Riding on board with Adam Benefield and seeing him stall at the wheel. These Xfinity cars are known as being ones that can be a little bit tough to manage, and we are certainly seeing that right now. That's a number 20 car blowing Adam Benefield's doors off I think we saw a pit stop from that number 20 a little bit earlier on, not on the lead lap, nowhere close to it, currently slotted in P19. Actually, is the other car, the first car, one lap down, in fact. So if there is a yellow at this exact point in time, would be the lucky dog. So Tracy McDowell, certainly not a lot to lose at this moment, but a heck of a lot to gain if they can get themselves back up onto the lead lap. But look at Benefiel having to pump the steering wheel. As much as he was comfortable in the dirty air a little bit earlier on, that dirty air does eventually bite.
Yeah, it looks like he has just gone a little bit in the way of making that car a little bit looser, and you can see it off the turns as well. To be fair, a loose off condition is often made worse or helped by a heavy right foot, and that very much is it within the control of the driver rather than the car itself. As Benefiel is showing that right now, last time round 0.06 of a second quicker, but you'd expect that because Hixenberg was overtaken by McDowell on that lap, which does make things a little bit different, but he is giving this a proper go. 30 to go when they get to the line. These two have been the class of the field tonight, and arguably in this whole season as well. They are putting on a grandstand finish for us at the end.
No, that they certainly are. They've been the main two throughout this season, and it's quite fitting that they've been the main two throughout this race, continuing to put in some good times, putting in the good laps, and trying to catch each other up. Ixenball looking to drive off into the sunset to complete what has been a fantastic season for him. Adam Benefiel looking to be the spoiler to that dream season that Bryson Ixenball has already had. You look at the racers a little bit farther behind, still some battles of note. Joseph McWhorter and Eric Wineland, your other two Championship 4 racers, they find themselves in the top 10 right now, slotted in P8 and P10 currently. McWhorter on that alternate strategy, still on the charge up with those newer tires. Keep an eye on him on the 12.5-second gap that he has to the drivers farther up the road. He could very well whittle that away, and I'm sure McWhorter is going to close up the gap between himself and these two quite a lot, as it's side-by-side racing with the 97 of Lucas Hoytsma and the 10 of Edward Scherer Jr.
Yeah, good battle between those two non-championship drivers as Hoytsma moves into the 6th position where he's been running for quite a lot of tonight. Hixenberg started his run up towards the very high line through turn 1 and 2, the 9-degree banking through the very open end of the racetrack. It's a very odd line to take, actually. You don't see it very often running right up next to the wall, and generally it was actually in the last 15 laps or so of the previous run when he started to feel, I think, we was under a little bit of trouble from Benefiel, being put under a little bit of pressure. I think he resorted to that because as a reaction almost to it, but on this occasion there's nearly 30 to go. Benefiel is going to be able to run him down anyway because he's got a lap fresher tyres, and Hixenberg is grabbing onto anything he can to try and make this a little bit easier to the end of this race.
Yeah, now with the time slowly but surely running out, the sun below that horizon. So look at that. That is finally the stop from Brian Workman. He spent so long out there on the track. Comes into the pits from P18 it was by the time he hit the pit cones. Fantastic stint from Brian Workman, really. Even though he's running a little bit farther behind, we always like to keep tabs on those racers a little bit farther in the back, because even though they aren't running in the lights for the race lead, they've still got their own battle. Look at that, 80 laps in a stint. The good years on his tires, I can't even say screaming in agony is doing justice. They've got to be just completely gone.
Yeah, just hoping to catch a caution while he was on the lead lap there, because he was struggling to stay on the lead lap while we were continuing on there with that run, but now has had to pit, and that will be the end of his run tonight. He'll be a couple of laps down now, at least, to Hixenberg, who is under the most pressure he's been under from Banner Benefiel so far in this race. At least last time round he was. This time into 1 and 2, not quite as much, as trying to unlap himself. Connor E. Cunningham is coming through. He's only on 11 lap old tyres, nearly 20 younger than these two, but it's very awkward to know how you can get involved there as Charles Velasquez Jr. makes a late stop, his last stop of the season.
So as we see Charles Velasquez Jr. trundle down pit lane. A pretty bitter end to what has been a pretty bitter end to this season. Thought about making it into the championship four. He did not. Instead, it's going to be disappointment that meets him at the end of this race here at Phoenix instead of a championship crown. Oh, that's a big moment from Kirk Mills. He gets oh so wide coming out there. That's a wall scrape there from the 83 of Adam Benefiel. He's got a car to worry about side by side racing with himself. And the 78, that's a lap down car of Connery Cunningham. He comes down pit lane. That is not going to be the best moment from Adam Benefiel, but he is still close to Hixenball. Coming to the final 21 laps of this race in regulation, Hixenball holds on to about 2.5 tenths to 3 tenths of gap to himself and Benefiel.
Yeah, effectively, Cliff Mullins, by the way, got past Cunningham as he slowed down coming out of 2 there. I mean, really wanting to stay out of this because Benefiel is going for the championship. He's a 10.5 behind Hixenball. It's winner takes all, and it's 2 drivers who have dominated tonight. They've got 20 laps to decide who's going to be going home with the 2025 title.
And it's all coming down to a battle of nerves at the end of this race here at Phoenix tonight. Hixenball and Benefiel, they've been the dominant racers from this season. They've been the dominant racers from this race, but start to see some cracks forming to both of them. Hixenball had a bit of a wiggle. He hit the wall on entry, and Benefiel got oh so close. He darn near overtook Hixenball, but not able to keep the momentum rolling on the bottom end of the racetrack. We saw how it shook out right towards the end of the last stint before we saw these racers come down pit lane. Adam Benefiel was slowly but surely reeling in that 63, bringing that gap down, applying some more pressure lap after lap, and now we're at that point once again. Benefiel goes for the dive down in the inside lane, but not able to keep the momentum rolling once again. He's got to wait for a trip up from Hixenball. If that 63 gets up on the fence, you know for sure the 83 is going to be right there to pounce.
Yeah, he hasn't made a single mistake so far in this race, though, as Bryson Hixenball, which is making Adam Benefiel's job a lot harder here. He's still right in his wheel tracks at the moment. Benefiel is trying absolutely everything, and his best shot is into 1 and 2 here. But he's got to be careful he doesn't end up straight in the door of his championship rival, and he slides off of 2 as well. Small mistake there, and Hixenball was able to get 3 attempts clear.
Yeah, so Hixenball gonna shake off that challenge for the moment, but still enough time left in this race for Benefiel to fight back once again. Gotta worry about all the drama out there on the racetrack. A late race yellow could turn this race's complexion completely around, as Benefiel still got a quick race car in that 83 car. He gets close to the side of Hixenball as they head their way off through 1 and 2, but not able to draw alongside. 16 laps left to go here in the not too far off future as they come across the line right about now. Hixenball needs to put in the best 16 laps of not just his season, but probably his life, as he's got his main championship rival from the whole season hounding him.
Yeah, he has. So far in 2025, between them 12 victories, 36 top 5s, and 44 top 10s. Benefiel and Hixenball have been the class of the field all year. It's only fitting that they battle amongst themselves for the championship victory. Joseph McWhorter's 5th at the moment. He is gaining time actually on these guys. He's over 15 laps younger in terms of the tyres. He's gaining 2 or 3 attempts a lap, but 8.5 seconds back, he's not going to be a feature. Neither is Eric Wineland, who is 8th place at the moment, unless of the caution anyway. Those two won't be involved, and Benefiel's starting to slip a few attempts back. You wonder whether he is starting to run out of steam here.
Yeah, I think that may have been the charge from him. It was one heck of a charge, but if that was it, it wasn't successful. Benefiel maybe deciding to save up his stuff for a last lap end of the race lunge at the very end of this race. I gotta wonder if that's what Benefiel is trying to do. Save up his stuff, save it for the very end, and then just absolutely book it as we get into the final 5 laps. Getting close to that though. Gonna be 13 to go at the line. Lucky number 13 laps left to go from this race and from this season. The 2025 Friday Night Lights Xfinity Series season has really seen it all, from dominant racers like these two contending for the championship to breakthrough stories, come from behind victories, and a whole heap of storylines that have kept us entertained all throughout this championship. It's all coming down to this, getting into the final 10 laps sooner rather than later, and getting into the final 15 miles of what has been a fantastic season. Hixenball now holding on to a nearly 8/10 of a second gap. All he's got to do if that number 83 still drops down is just keep it clean and bring it home.
Yeah, Benefiel is starting to really struggle here. He's given it a proper go. On the inside of 1 and 2 has been his zone. He's not been able to get past, though. It's going to take quite an effort for him to even claw the amount of tenths of a second he needs to back again before he can even start to attempt those moves again. It's been so difficult to get past Bryson Hixenbauer tonight, and Benefiel's just starting to overdrive this car a little bit now as he gets desperate for this title. Desperation starting to creep in, and he is not able to find his way past for the moment. He's got to hope for a caution, a lapped car, something to get in the way of Bryson Hixenbauer in these final 10 laps, because at the moment the tyres underneath. Oh, and there it is! The caution with 11 to go!
And I think it was Bryce Reiner. Yes, it was. The driver that we thought was going to spoil the race for those championship 4 contenders and be a big thorn in their side at the end. Well, he was, just not in the way that he or any of us really thought. Let's take a look at this as they headed their way down into 1 and 2. That 5 car on the inside, the 82, contact being made. They go up in the fence, and that brings out the yellow. Only the second caution for incident in this race, and it comes right at the very end. Huge moment in this race, huge moment from this season. That's going to have a big mark.
That everybody has got 1 set of tyres remaining, so watch them all come in. Hixenbauer leads them in. Oh, Benefiel comes in as well. That's lap car staying out. Eddie Rose is the first driver to stay out there on the racetrack with 10 to go, and at the moment is the only one on the lead lap. He will be the only one to stay out on the lead lap. Here they come, both into the box. A stop that has to be absolutely perfect. This will determine track position heading onto the circuit for the final time.
And will either of them consider 2 tires with how long we have left to go in this race? I don't think that's a viable call. Let's see as they're up on the jacks. Who's going to come out in front of who?
Oh,
there we go. It is 2 tires. That's the call from Benefiel. It's not the call from Hixenbauer. He's still stopped in the pit lane. That may have given that upper hand to the 83 machine. I was thinking, could a driver go for that? We don't have a lot of time left to go in this race, but to make it to the end on 2 tires, that's going to be a tough road. I will say, though, they've got to worry about not just each other. They've got to worry about the other racers around them. It's going to be a tense run through to the very end. Eric Weiland comes down pit lane. Eddie Rose going to be in the pits too. But I'm fascinated by that call from Benefiel. I think it works out well for the track position. This will be the first taste of relative clean air he has had all night long. And let's see if that number 83 car will just drive off into the sunset, even with the 2-tire call.
Well, he's not going to drive off into the sunset, but he is going to try and defend from the front here, which he's got a decent chance of doing. And Joseph McWhorter's stop was great again. He's up to 3rd, just in behind Hixenbauer here. He'll be on the inside as well. I think Benefiel's done the right thing. He's thrown absolutely everything here at this very final run to the finish of this championship. He's not been able to pass Hixenbauer all night. He's really struggled with it, in fact. So get in front of him somehow, and that is exactly how. Take 2 tyres in the stop. There'll be 7 to go, but it'll have the track position for the first time tonight, and who knows what can happen, especially with McWhorter starting there in 3rd as well. What a finish to this season we're going to have.
This is going to be a grandstand finish. We've had so many exciting moments, so many bits of drama, so many points of our vocal cords getting tested here in the broadcast booth. But it all comes down to this. This could very well be the final restart from this season in the Friday Night Lights Xfinity Series. Adam Benefiel and Bryson Hixenbauer will lead us back to green. Keep an eye on that 73 of Joseph McWhorter as we're back to green flag racing. Benefiel using that inside line to his advantage. He jumps out to a comfortable gap. Look at the side-by-side racing with the 73 and the 63. Joseph McWhorter, even with the old tires on that race car, he at the very least is being a big headache to Bryson Hixenbauer as they're side-by-side. Still, big wall whack. Benefiel whacks it big time. He's going to drop down to the back. That car will not be handling good. The huge mistake at the end, and Joseph McWhorter now finds himself up in the front with only 6 laps left to go from this season.
Surely Benefield's chances of winning the title are over. Overdriving again, unfortunately for him there. He'll dive into 1 and 2. He'll try and get underneath Hixenbaugh, but he can't. Shows it that Water leads this race for the first time tonight with 6 laps to go. What a story. What a victory this could be. It is going to be hard fought, that's for sure. 5 to go. Hixenbaugh is just prowling at the moment. He is right there, and he is going to be challenging McWhorter to the very last in these next 5 laps. Fastest lap of the race for McWhorter, so he is giving this everything.
And Benefield dropping back. He's going to impact the wall once again as they head their way off through 1 and 2. He's going to be out of it. Adam Benefield was in that catbird. Sees a wreck on the back straightaway. Contact being made, the 91, the 42. Adam Benefield gets collected in that once again. And I hate to say it, that is just about it from Benefield. The motor's gone. He's done. He is out of it. That was a catastrophic restart from him. It was going so good for so long until it went so badly so quickly. I saw that sideways snap from him as he headed his way out of 3 and 4 right before the pandemonium broke out. That wall impact was huge. His suspension had to have been cooked, let alone the tires. As soon as he lost out on that track advantage, it ended for him. The contact with the 20, he goes up on the fence, creates a bit of a choke point for the racers a little bit farther up the road, who caused this accident to bring out the yellow. And there you can see, going across the track is the 91 of Raymond Root, the 83 piling into all of that. That will be game over and season over for Adam Benefield. A bitter way for it to end. He had that right strategy call. 2 tires, got that fantastic restart, but a mistake all of his own causes it, and it was a mistake in the same section of the racetrack of a different nature for Matthew Boston Wheeler that causes that accident. That Benefield that gets collected in it. But you see more racers involved in it too as we jump back to the beginning of the end for Benefield.
Yeah, this is on the restart lap. He got a great jump, but unfortunately these tyres were just not up to it. Oh, big snap it was. He's just again overdriving. I think he's just in adjustments throughout this race, just from looking from off board, as we can see here. You get a view of it here. I think he's just maybe adjusted this car a tad too loose. You can see, the snap he has off of 2. He finds the wall, and from that point, his championship was over.
As soon as he lost that clean air advantage, it was game, set, match. There was nothing that he could have done, even if that bit of wall contact didn't happen, heading out of the dog leg into 1 and 2, even if he didn't end up in the fence there, even if he didn't get collected in that drama on the back straight away, it was season over for him. That's a heartbreaking way for it to end for him. But now we find ourselves in potential overtime territory. 3 laps left to go. Now into overtime officially. So we will go beyond the full distance, beyond lap 200, as we're going to have a 2-lap dash to the very end. I believe this will mark off as the first green-white checkered attempt here. So these racers will have to worry about that. Been quite some time since we have seen green-white checkers play a factor in one of these races, but it will play a role in tonight's race. We have pretty much unlimited attempts. We have 15 attempts at a green-white checkered. If we use up 15 attempts, we're going to be here until it's probably about 5 o'clock in the morning for you, Ewan. And I think we won't have any more cars out there on the racetrack if we got to it. But this could very well be the final restart of this season. And it's the come-from-behind story for Joseph McWhorter. You've got one racer who's looking to cap off a dominant run in 2025. One man who's looking to grab a win and grab a championship in a night full of anguish. Let's see what he can do. McWhorter guns it. We're back to green flag racing here at Phoenix. He accelerates through that restart zone, jumps out to a comfortable gap as Hixenbaugh feeling some pressure from Edward Sherrod Jr. downtown into 1 and 2. That's a 97 up in the fence.
Yeah, and Heusler goes backwards. Sherrod Jr. might well be McWhorter's friend at the moment. He can't quite get alongside though. Hixenbaugh clear into 3 and 4. He's got one more lap to try and take this away from McWhorter. Side and contact. We get the white flag though. One more to go.
One more lap of racing action from the 2025 Friday Night Lights Xfinity Series season, and it all comes down to this. That's a dive off into the turn from the 63 of Hixenbaugh. He doesn't clear him. That's going to do it for him in this race unless he can go for the lunge into 3 and 4. Joseph McWhorter has had such personal tragedy today. Going to end the night with a championship here in this season. Joseph McWhorter in the comeback of the century, gonna be your 2025 Friday Night Lights Xfinity Series champion.
Wow, what a finish and what a story. Joseph McWhorter is our series champion. Unbelievable finish. And in a week of such turmoil for him personally, what a story it is for him to be able to stand tall at the end of the season and be crowned champion. He barely led any laps tonight compared to Hixenboy, who dominated. He took on a strange strategy through the middle point of this race just to try and do anything that would upset the order. He couldn't do it in strategy, but his pit stops under caution tonight were excellent. He got free track position on every single caution in which he pitted. That crucial bit of track position allowed him to get to third in the penultimate restart. That allowed him ahead of Hixenboy, which in turn allowed him ahead of Benefiel. And he goes on to win the title. An unbelievable story and a great vision of celebration at the end as well for McWhorter. What a fantastic finish that was. What drama at the end of this year.
What a way to end this season. A season full of action, a season full of comes from behind, and that's what ended up being the case here. McWhorter, we pretty much had him out of it. I mean, we didn't say that he was fully out of it, but we thought it was a two-horse race. One of those horses crashed. The other one just didn't have it at the end. Instead, the 73 of Joseph McWhorter going to be your 2025 season champion. We're going to have a chat with him here in a couple of moments. But for now, let's take a look at the final results page from what has been an incredible season of racing action here in this championship. Wow. Well, I am speechless. I don't know what else to say. Joseph McWhorter gets his second win of the season, wins at the right time to win the title. Bravo to him. Bravo as well. A shout out goes to Bryson Hixenboy, who gave it everything at the very end. Just wasn't enough to usurp Joseph McWhorter. Lucas Hoytsma comes home in P3. May have been a little bit of what could have been had he made it into the championship 4, but still a fantastic season from him. A win at Talladega a little bit earlier on in this championship. Still comes home with a good result here today and has a shot at the title tomorrow in the full-length Cup Challenge. Eric Wineland is going to finish in 4th. A nice result from him after not really having the pace in the early stages. But right behind him will be Trace McDowell, Matthew Boston Wheeler in P6, Kyle Amon in 7th, Tanner Marty in 8th, Cliff Mullins in 9th, and Noah Woods rounding out your top 10. We'll go through the rest of the results. We'll see them on page, and you can see all of those racers and where your favorites may have round up at the very end. But I want to get into these interviews as quickly as possible because talk about a roller coaster ride of emotions for your winner and for your champion, Joseph McWhorter. We started off the night saying that we would have an extra pace lap in honor of a family member of his that recently passed, and it started the night off that way. It's going to end with a visit into victory lane for the second time this season, the first time since Pocono back in the summer, and a championship to boot. So let's get the interviews up and rolling by having a chat with your 2025 Friday Night Lights Xfinity Series season. Joseph McWhorter, welcome into the booth. First off, my condolences go out to you and your entire family after the news a little bit earlier. Congratulations on the win and congratulations on the championship, man. You fought back hard and you got it done.
Yeah, we lost Kelsey's grandma today at about like 3:30 our time, Central Time, and this whole season's been kind of rough because we've, I was telling the guys up there, I lost my Uncle Kenny earlier this season, and then we lost a friend of the family that was like an uncle to me like 2 weeks later, Steve Abel. Big in the dirt car community down in Southeast Missouri. It was that's why you don't give up. That's why you keep fighting. You keep making changes to the car. You keep getting better. You have good pit stops. We executed on pit stops all night. I mean, every single time down pit road, I was getting 2 or 3 spots tonight. Johnny came in at the end of stage 2. We got a little bit better with his changes, and then we made a big adjustment at that lap 160 pit stop. Got even better. I don't think it would have worked if we didn't get a yellow, but a huge shout out to Johnny for even bringing me onto this team and giving me the opportunity to race in such an amazing league. these guys are some of the best that you can find on iRacing, and it's been a tough season. Only getting one win now, two. Johnny or Bryson was the guy all season long. I feel bad for him. I've lost championships that way too on a dominant season. So you know, this one's just special. This one means a lot. I told myself I wasn't going to cry this time, but then we had everything happen today, so it's like, ended up doing it again.
And I can't blame you one bit, man. The roller coaster of emotions today. And I want to ask you about the roller coaster of emotions throughout this race. Towards the beginning, it really looked like just a two-horse race for the championship between Bryson Hixenball and Adam Benefield. Then that late race, I think it was about 15 laps left to go when we had that yellow come out, and then that really just it put wind back in your sails as we got to the end.
Yeah, yeah, I didn't get a chance to talk to Johnny for the race, other than just telling him what was going on, and I didn't know what setup to use, and I kind of put one that was more meant for cooler temperatures. So I was really loose all night. I'm pretty sure you guys probably saw me sliding quite a bit. Um, and so it kind of put us a little bit behind. I didn't qualify very well, but was able to drive all the way up almost to the top five. And then we had a really good pit stop and restarted third in that first stage, and then again third in the or fourth or third in the second stage. I just knew, and I told Johnny, I was like, if you can give me a car to where I can just be a little bit more stable, I can go do this. We were one of the fastest cars in the spring, and I knew that if we could just get a little bit more out of the car, we could get it.
And you got it. You got the win. You got the title. You said it was only your second win this season. The win at Pocono, I remember how hyped you were about that. Sure, a lot of emotions here today, but I can imagine this is a large amount of hype behind this win too.
Yeah, absolutely. This is huge. I'm so thankful for everybody, my family, my girlfriend, her mom Amy, her grandma Kathy, my dad, everybody that supports me each and every week. It's I thought the championship in SNR was big, but I think this one is a lot bigger because of the competition and just how amazing each and every one of these drivers are.
I gotta say, from my perspective as well, Joseph, that finish, the come from behind that you put on just from this race after what happened for you earlier on today. And once again, my condolences go out to you and your family for that. But one of the probably one of the best storylines I've ever gotten the opportunity to cover, to put it in such blunt terms. But thank you for joining us here in the booth. Once again, congratulations on the win. And for one final time this season, now as a champion, are there any other thanks or shout outs you want to give?
Yeah, absolutely. First and foremost, I want to thank Outlier Speed Code, Johnny Avila, and all the boys over there. They've been such an amazing partner this year, all throughout the entire year. Johnny has been such an amazing friend to have. Such a just stand up dude. Everything that taking over at Outlier, everything he's done to turn that organization around from what it was to what it is now. He's been amazing. So go check them out at outlierspeedcode.com. Red Camel Racing, go check them out at redcamelracing.com. All the gear that you need for a real life race, fire shoots, shoes, helmets, you name it, they've got it. Redcamelracing.com. Anything. Sorry. 29 Graphics, go check them out on Training Pains, 29 Graphics. Um, let's see. You guys for putting on the broadcast all year long. We really enjoyed having you guys. Like I said, I want to dedicate this championship, this win, to Kenny Stewart, Steve Abel, and Kathy, all the people that we lost this year. Amy, my girlfriend's mom, my girlfriend Kelsey, my dad, everybody, all my friends, my teammates, Jonathan Smith, Mark Whitley, Judson Curtis, Jordan Trass, Dabney, everybody that's on my team that I've been, teaching on SNR. All the drivers for an amazing season, the admins for all the hard work, and man, I'm. I think it's time to go drink a beer.
Yeah, I think that beer has most certainly been earned, man. Congratulations. Enjoy that cold one. Enjoy the off season, and congratulations on the championship, man. Joseph, well done.
Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it. It's been awesome getting to talk to you this year, and look, hopefully you guys are back for next season.
I'm certainly gonna make sure I'm back. Even though my vocal cords have definitely taken a pummeling calling that finish, I want to be back for 2026. That was awesome, man. Thank you once again.
Thank you so much. I appreciate it. You guys have a great rest of your year.
That we certainly will, and hope you do as well. That was your champion, Joseph McWhorter, joining us in the broadcast booth with the victory and the jubilation for Joseph McWhorter comes the slight anguish for some racers a little bit farther behind. One driver who looked to be on rails throughout most of this race, but comes up oh so short right at the very end is your P2 finisher in this race and this season, Bryson Hexenball. Ewan, would you like to have a chat with him?
Yeah, absolutely. Let's do it. Bring him in, Bryson. Welcome in. Good to have you with us. And second place for you tonight here at Phoenix after leading so many laps. Just tell us how you're feeling at the end of that race.
I wish I could tell you how I'm feeling, but I don't think that would be approved by the YouTube censors here. I'm gonna try and do my best because, like, as a league admin, I can't be doing too much bad things here. But I can say I'm not happy about a lot of things that happened there in those last 15 laps there to get in that situation.
Let's just rewind a little bit in the race and sort of go through the motions of how we got there. I mean, we had some very long green flag runs tonight, but particularly focusing in on the longest of them in that final stage. What was that battle like between yourself and Adam Benefiel when you were running in the league? Just how much pressure were you under at times during that really long green flag run in the final stage there?
Yeah, I knew Adam was better probably after lap 35-ish of the runs. The end of stage 1 into stage 2, he was starting to make gains, and the only reason why he didn't pass me is because dirty air, and I had an advantage there from that. So when he was getting real close before pit stops, I knew that I had to pit before him. That if he got out front, he'd have the clean air, and even if I had fresher tires, I wasn't going to be able to get back by him. So I had to make sure that I got out front first. I was a bit surprised he came in just one lap later. I thought he'd go for more of a tire advantage, but I kept waiting for him to get closer and closer, and I thank him for racing me clean, for not moving me for the win, even though like it was fairly early for him to do that. But he had plenty of opportunities to kind of go in there and move me up the hill, and we raced clean. We raced clean all season, and I was glad that it was coming down to us there, and then we had the caution with 15 to go.
Yeah, and I can only imagine what you were thinking at that point when the caution itself came out. But you must have been expecting at some point during that pit lane those pit stops, that somebody would take two tires or maybe stay out completely just to throw things off a little bit. Was it sort of? Or were you almost strangled by your own success in that final run, in a sense, because that was pretty much the first time in the whole race where you'd had to overtake someone. Yes, you'd had to pass Raymond Root, but there was a big tyre difference there. Were you a little bit sort of, put off by that late restart in the sense of being behind for the first time, having to make that overtake with so few laps remaining?
Yeah, I had been thinking about two tires. I'd tested it during the week, and I knew that it worked for 5-10 laps of a run, but I hadn't done it with that old of tires on the car, so I wasn't sure about committing to only taking rights on that pit stop, and I was fine with how far ahead we were entering pit road, that I would only come out behind Adam if Adam took two tires. So I knew that I was fine being on four tires right behind him, and when we got going, I got a bad restart. I couldn't see very much from second place, so I lost a little bit of ground there. I let McWhorter clear me, and I didn't have enough of a short run car to really get back to him after Adam got clear. Like I probably could have moved him with 5 to go before that second caution or whenever that was, but I wanted to see if I could get back by him. I knew that I had the run out of 2, that I could get that on him and see if I could make it work without moving him. But it ultimately, on that last restart, I fell too far back. I didn't get a good enough run, and I had to try and make desperation moves in the final lap, and it didn't work out.
Well, commiserations on that, and a great season nevertheless, with still 7 victories and so on. So thanks for coming to chat to us at the end of the race, even considering the circumstances. Is there anybody you'd like to shout out or anything before we let you go for the season?
Yeah, I'd like to just shout out to Team Conti Sim Performance all year. They've had amazing setups for all 3 series. Nick Andrew does a great job in the Xfinity cars. We absolutely won more than half the races this year with his setups, and we were dominating tonight. I think at one point we were 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and it was just driving away from the field long run, and unfortunately it didn't come down to a long run.
Well, commiserations again on that, Bryson. But thanks for chatting to us. Considering the circumstances, I know that everybody would in the disappointment you must be feeling at the moment. So again, thanks for that, and hopefully we'll speak to you again very soon, somewhere in the future.
Yeah, hope to see you guys again next year.
Thanks so much, Bryson Hickson-Bars, second place tonight from Phoenix, and just the contrast of emotions, Ron. That you can hear it in the voices, can't you? It matters so much to these guys, and the contrast we've just heard between Joseph and Bryson there is just amazing, isn't it? That's what end of season drama is all about. We've certainly seen that tonight.
Yeah, that's what you get at the end of these races, at the end of these seasons. You have one driver who's going to be spraying the champagne, celebrating a championship win, and one who's going to be kicking himself and thinking what could have been at the end of this race. One man who is probably happy about running at your overall top 3. I think we have some more interviews that we'll probably do, it being the season finale, but we'll continue on the interviews by having a chat with our P3 finisher. Lucas Hoisma joins us here in the booth. Lucas, well done on a P3 here at Phoenix. Happy to talk us through that race here tonight.
Yeah, I would have been happy to race for championship here tonight, but it's kind of a relief. I didn't really have much pressure in this race, so I could kind of do what I wanted, and felt like I had really good speed, especially once the sun came down. And the end of the race, we were running green. I probably had a nice top 5 lined up. Then that caution came out, and that flipped it all around for those playoff guys or championship guys. So I feel for them there. That was a very stressful situation. I hate it for Bryson because he probably had that race won. That caution didn't come out, but love it for Joseph. That's an awesome story. I'm really happy for him on that, and I'm happy to finish out this season. That was a really fun 2025 season here at Xfinity. Happy to go into tomorrow and maybe go for a championship there. But I really appreciate everybody here in full length. Bobby, Bryson, everybody puts in time. I mean, it's been so much fun this year, and it is not easy to do all that.
Yeah, and you mentioned something I was just going to ask you about. You're going to be contending for a championship tomorrow night here in Maconi Entertainment when the full-length Cup Championship comes to a conclusion. So I want to ask you about what your thoughts are heading off into tomorrow's race.
Well, I'll be completely transparent with you. I wish I would have done a little bit more practice this week, but we're going to put in a lot of hours before the race tomorrow night, and hopefully I'll be race ready and have a chance at that championship. Really blessed to be able to do that. I kind of got lucky there at Martinsville to be in that situation. Things were looking grim, so happy things turned around. I'll be representing RHM, and yeah, I think we're pretty good. I think we'll be right in that fight tomorrow for that championship.
And of course, all you viewers tuning into this broadcast, if you'd like to see the action from the full-length Cup Challenge here tomorrow, you can by just tuning in at about 24 hours time here on Maconi Entertainment. But Lucas, for one final time on these Friday Night Lights Xfinity Series broadcasts, we'll let you give thanks or shout-outs before we let you go.
Absolutely. First and foremost, everybody at RHM all season, it's been awesome. Everybody over at Low Drag, 712 Brakes, all my family for watching, and especially to everybody who runs this league and everybody here in Maconi Entertainment for broadcasting this all season long. You guys have done a great job.
Yeah, it's been our privilege and pleasure all throughout this season to bring the action to life, and the action at the end, as I said in the interview with Joseph a little bit earlier on. I think I'm probably gonna have to have a whole bag of cough drops once I'm set and done with this broadcast. But Lucas, thank you for joining us. Congratulations on the P3, and looking forward to seeing you go championship trophy hunting in the Cup Challenge tomorrow.
Absolutely. Thank you. See you then.
And that right there was Lucas Hoitzmeyer, P3 finisher at the end of this race. And since it is a season finale, I feel kind of bad since I'm the only American on this show, but we'll keep things up and rolling and dragging Eric Wineland to have a chat. And I'll let you take Eric.
Yeah, fourth place tonight for Eric Wineland, who joins us now. Eric, welcome in. Good to have you with us. Fourth place for you tonight in the championship race at Phoenix. How are you feeling at the end of that race? It must be a mix of emotions, as the end of seasons always are. But how are you feeling?
You know what, Ewan? It was a race. I didn't feel super great all night. Obviously, judging by my pace and where I ran for most of the race, we just absolutely missed the mark tonight. And yeah, it just got lucky at the end to catch some yellows and maybe make something of it. But all in all, I didn't even think I was going to make the final four. And as of the end of Martinsville, we thought that we hadn't. The goal this season was to reach the round of 8 and see where we could do from there. Bonus goal, making the final four, and even bonus finishing third, thanks to some unfortunate driving up front. But yeah, Ewan, Eric's got to go to a lot of work here at Phoenix. I'm not very good here, as evidenced there. And I didn't figure it out till sometime in like middle toward the end of stage 2. So all in all, very proud, thankful for the season. Thankful for the guys here at the Full Length Challenge, Friday Night Lights Xfinity Series, that put this on. The race control, so Bobby, Jason, and then of course Bryson for helping out as well, and of course you guys for documenting it all season long. So
it's been a pleasure to be here. In terms of that that race, and by the way, if you're going to make it to the championship for next season, you don't have to race at Phoenix for the championship, so that'd be nice if you can make it there. But anyway, it is in the round of 8, so I don't know how much consolation it is. In terms of the season as a whole, does it feel like a sort of positive season nevertheless? Third place tonight. It must be disappointing to have sort of not really contended for the race win at any stage, although you'll go down in the history books as within 2 seconds of a championship in the end. It just sort of almost all feel like a bonus, really, just finishing in third position at the end of this championship, having made it into the final four.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Regardless of how the race went, the season was strong from the get-go. We had a rough patch there in the middle part where we got strung up in some wrecks and some tempers, but all in all, average each week, I think I was finishing like 7th or 8th most of the races. So top 10s were feeling good, occasional top 5, and then when the playoffs were starting and we had made it in on points, I said, all right, new goal, let's win a race. And then we went out and did that in the first race of the playoffs at Bristol, which is one of my more favored tracks, and I look forward to those races there next year. And that was okay. Now we can relax. Let's go for the round of 8 and try to make something happen in the round of 8. Got incredibly lucky. You know what? I'll take that. That's my nickname for those that know me personally. So the luck was on our side all season long, or all playoffs long, to get there to the finish. And you know what? I like the sounds of being within 2 seconds of a championship. I appreciate that, Ewan. Yeah. Looking forward to next season. I need to make sure personal side of things that I still have the ability to, but so far so good.
Well, we look forward to seeing you there if indeed you are going to be. So yeah, thanks for chatting to us at the end of the season, Eric, and congrats again on a 3rd place in this finish in this season.
Hey, thank you, and thank you guys here at Maconi Entertainment for, like I said, documenting all season. Of course, the race control guys that I highlighted, and my guy on the car, Brian Blackford, develops Drafty Car 2, out now on Steam if you guys want to go check that out. And of course, the incredibly popular Drafty Car app on your mobile device as well. Huge thank you to him for being on the car all season, and Jake Nichols for putting these nice, crisp looking paint schemes on, including the silver one tonight. Looked pretty good. Looking forward to next season, guys.
Absolutely, as we are as well. Eric Wineland, 3rd place in the championship for 2025. Thanks very much for chatting to us. 4th place tonight at Phoenix, but as I say, 3rd place in the championship and within 2 seconds of a title. That's how the history books will see it anyway.
Yeah, it was a darn good season from Eric Wineland. Certainly exceeded his expectations. But one man who's probably going to be a little bit heartbroken at the end of this, and I'm not really sure how exactly I should go about this interview, if I'm being completely honest, but we'll do it anyways. Let's have a chat with the man who nearly had it, but at the end of the day comes up short. Adam Benefield now joining us here in the booth. Adam, commiserations about missing out on the title. A darn good season for you, but how was the race out in Phoenix here tonight?
You threw me off. I was sitting down there talking. I didn't even know I was getting interviewed. Yeah. I mean, it's aggravating as hell. Really frustrating. This track sucks. This format sucks. I think this track would be better as a bass pond than a racetrack. Um, but yeah, I mean the two most dominant cars all season in that whole race right there didn't win. So yeah, we hope the fans are happy that they, you know, hope the excitement was worth it.
Yeah, I think I remember that comment from Kyle Petty. I think he was talking about Darlington when he said to turn that track into a bass pond. But hey, it's all part of life, I suppose, all part of this format. But overall, man, you put together an incredible season, 5 wins in all. I know it's definitely odd for me to say this as a broadcaster to you, a driver, but I think heading off into 2026, you should really not hang your head low. May not be the result in the championship, but still had a darn good season throughout 2025, and hoping that we'll see you back again in 2026. You've been a absolute pleasure to interview throughout this season. Awesome to see the battles that you've given us out there on the racetrack, and looking forward to seeing you back up there in championship contention in 2026, hopefully, Adam. But we'll let you give any thanks or shout outs before we let you go.
Uh, I said at the beginning of the race, before we went green, tell in the driver chat, but big thanks to Bobby for taking a chance and bringing this league back. I wouldn't be sitting here tonight pissed off if it wasn't for him. So that's one way to look at it, I guess. But everything he does, him, Bryson, and Jason Taylor, 26 will be bigger and better. Looking forward to it. Everybody at Team Conti Sim Performance, for all they do. Got to give a shout out to my boy Hastings on the 11 truck tonight. Sorry if y'all ain't watched it. I didn't think about that till now, but congrats to them for sealing the deal and getting it done. Sorry to hear about Joseph's. I don't know if it was his grandmother, or I think it was, but I hate to hear that. Yeah, this is a tough one to swallow right here. It's frustrating, man. I mean, you got a car like that, two cars like that. I mean, and neither one of us wins championship. So, yeah.
Well, I hope to
Y'all
see you
have a
come
good
back,
week.
and yeah, we're gonna hope to have a good off season. Hope to see you back in 2026, Adam. Commiserations on coming up close here, but looking forward to seeing what you can do come time for the new year.
Thank you.
And that right there was Adam Benefield, the last of the championship four contenders and the last of the interviews from this broadcast and this season. Ewan, it's a dream scenario. Well, not necessarily a dream, but the dream way to end off a pretty tough night for Joseph McWhorter, the comeback of a lifetime, the comeback of a century, as I called it right at the end, and probably probably one of the most exciting and insane championship finales I think I've ever had the privilege of commentating on.
Yeah, absolutely. Same here as well. I mean, it will have its detractors. Obviously, Bryson and Adam obviously are not pleased. Obviously, part of that is because that they've just come up short in the end this season, and they were the ones who are having that leading battle at the front for so long. And in a sporting sense, it's true what Adam says, that the fastest cars tonight didn't win, but that is sport, isn't it? The best team, the best driver, the best, athlete, whatever, doesn't always win, championships, year-long championships, or indeed single events as well. That's just sport. That's just the way it goes. And it was absolutely fantastic to watch, I've got to say. It was worth it as far as the excitement is concerned from our side of things. A brilliant way, as you say, to end a difficult time for Joseph McWhorter. A difficult year by the sounds of it for him. Great way to end it on a high, though, and take nothing away from him in none of those. And I don't think Bryson had a mean to take anything away from him personally. Obviously, they disliked the format itself and the way that race ended up itself as well. But take nothing away from Josie McWhorter. He put in a great performance at the end there to win that title, and just a great way to end the year for him. So congrats to him. And yeah, what a great finale that was. Thoroughly enjoyed it.
What a great finale and what a great season here in 2025 for the Friday Night Lights Xfinity Series Championship. I've had the privilege of covering all but one of the races that we have been able to cover here on Maconi Entertainment ever since this series came to us all the way back at Bristol. I think that broadcast, if my memory serves me correctly, was back on April the 11th. So from April all the way through to October, been my honor and privilege to cover the action. And I also want to give some thanks to, of course, the drivers, everybody involved in the full-length challenge world. You'll be able to see the FLCC season finale tomorrow night. I also want to thank the fine folks that I've gotten the opportunity to work with on these shows. Of course, Howie doing that unspoken job. I've heard one producer always describe production work as basically being the drummer of a band. You never really get the praise, but if you make one mistake, everybody's going to try and throw a tomato at you. Howie has been just about faultless throughout this season, doing some amazing work. I always want to thank Howie and give some love to production as someone who's been able to do production myself. Ewan, it's always been fantastic to have you in the booth. We do a heck of a lot of shows together. It's always fun. We've shared some good laughs. We've been able to see some absolutely amazing racing action, and it's been an honor to be with you in the booth throughout this season as well. My thanks as well. That's all the other people who have gotten the opportunity to work with throughout this season, the likes of Christian Hill, who served as interim producer on a couple of weeks, Justin Prince, who was with me in the broadcast booth last time at Martinsville, and many other names that are blanking out of my head. A huge thank you to all of you as well who have been able to tune into these broadcasts all throughout the season here on Maconi Entertainment. It's been an honor and a privilege, and hopefully we'll all be able to run it back in 2026 when we can crown a new champion at the end of another 33 race season. But once again, for one final time from the Friday Night Lights Xfinity Series season in 2025, that will do it. So for myself, Ron Mullins, Ewan O'Leary joining me in the commentary booth, and Howie Burrows working on the cameras and the graphics and the virtual production hauler, our congratulations go out to Joseph McWhorter, your 2025 champion, and we hope to see you all for